Bungefox Sparkler. Stolen Monkey Sparkler LVE your face.
Chat room, how are we doing today? I hope you're all doing very well. I have very little to say besides I'm sorry for literally always being in a state of mental health crisis. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how quickly I rushed off on Thursday and how I was not better on Friday and how you haven't really heard much from me until now. I'm just not okay a lot of the time, and I'm sorry. That's what's up. I don't want to make a big thing out of it. Just thank you for Sholin Monkey for that 6-month subscribe. I appreciate that. And thank you, Bungie Fox, for that 16-month subscribe. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. After 7 days surrounded by screaming babies and overindulged grown children, I am now home looking at a positive result on a COVID test. No! I'm so sorry to hear that. Also, yeah, Absolute Goblin is a gem. Okay. Hello, Clara. I can see YouTube. And y'all, I wish I didn't have to fucking apologize for my mental health, but I do in my job. Ironically, this is like the only job I can have and like not get fired. And also it's the job that it's the most important to have positive mental health all the time and like just be happy and optimistic always. You know what I mean? It's like if you are not like toxically fucking positive on Twitch and YouTube, you just don't get to grow, essentially. Thank you, Clara. I appreciate it. It's true. We can't fire you. Suck on that, fuckers. You stuck with me. Anyway, hi. Hi, guys. Mog, it's good to see you. Moss, Bardic Muse, Rana, Bicky, Pondwater. Hello. Hello, Clara. Hello, everyone. It is good to see you guys. How are you, Doxy? Woof. I am woof. Another upside, no HR department. Like, you have to be your own. You have to be your own HR department. Which, I'll be honest, has gotten me in trouble. I have a lot of hot takes. I'm a very outspoken, far leftist. For an American, anyway. For the rest of the world, I'm pretty sane. You better be treating yourself to some ice cream. I had ice cream last night. We are on full wellness, full fucking wellness, just because my mental health has been so fucking bad lately. We're doing yoga, we're doing veggies, we're doing calorie counting, we're doing cardio, we're doing all of it. Like, it's me and Josiah have decided that it's full fucking wellness mode. We'll learn to like the food that we hate and stuff like that. Is that a new font for chat messages? I did fuck around with it. I meant to ask you guys. Also, everybody, hold on really quickly. A handful of idiots, welcome. Join me in welcoming a handful of idiots. There's a handful of idiots in chat right now. Thank you so much for coming in and saying hi and talking about our HR department. Don't ever tell anybody about our secret HR department. Thanks. Ice cream is godlike. It is. It's so good. Hi, Lita. Okay. What was I in the middle of fucking saying? Yeah, I fucked around a little bit with chat. Hopefully it looks good. Can you guys like read and see it okay? I hope. And also I messed around with the cam a little bit too. And I feel like it looks better. Like, it's a lot less blown out, overexposed.
What do you awful women want?
What do you awful women want?
With 3 viewers.
Bumble Kitty Store. It's so good to see you. How are you? Hi. Thank you so much for the raid. I'm blushing. I don't know why. I'm sorry. Had cookie two-step ice cream on Saturday. It's cookies and cream and cookie dough together. That sounds very yum. That sounds very, very yum. We went to Dairy Queen last night. We were like, okay, we're going to go full in on this wellness thing tomorrow. So, hi, Oz. I keep losing track of what I'm trying to say. We went to Dairy Queen. It was very delicious. I got, I was going to get like the cookies and cream Royal Blizzard or whatever, but I ended up getting the Turtle Blizzard and adding Oreos to it, and it was thebomb.com. It was so fucking good. Popping in before you take care of some stuff. You make that stuff your bitch, Oz. You tell it Doxy sent ya. Oliver, thank you so much for resubbing.
Ginger Sparkler, yo,
17 months. How are you? It's good to see you. Oh my goodness. I just can't keep a proper train of thought, but hopefully, does the stream look better than normal? I put a lot of work. Like, you can't probably tell that much that it's that different, but I put a lot of work into making it look more like real life, being positioned nice, and focusing on readability. As a non-US person, what's Dairy Queen? I'm actually in Canada now, handful of idiots, but Dairy Queen is just like an ice cream store chain. Doxy, one of the best thing about Mondays, especially after an entire weekend with no Doxy stream. Oh, Moss, I'm sorry. I know that I think about you guys the whole time, and I shouldn't. I shouldn't at all. I should be spending that time on myself, but me and Josiah spent a lot of time with each other this weekend, which was nice. Moth, that was a really lovely compliment. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And also, hopefully it's okay with everybody because this is what we're fucking doing. I have not put any... I was going to sit down and plan what we would be doing for the rest of the week. I have to do that tonight. I just plumb didn't have time because I just am an anxiety depression mess. I'm so sorry. I figure we can just pick up where we left off when I started to have that panic attack and finish what we were doing. The civil engineering failures and then the dangers of crowds. Dairy Queen is a fast food burger and ice cream place. Yes. They do a lot of specialty toppings and mix-ins. Yeah, absolutely. DQ had a Texas-specific campaign, and a lot of people think DQ started in Texas because of it. Really? Huh. I did not know that. Hello, Sharkstar. Hello, Henry. Hi, guys. Tony, hi. This is Crochet. And, fuck, I never... It's really hard for me to link... Can somebody exclamation pattern in Twitch chat so that I can copy paste it to YouTube chat, please? Yeah, we're still working on the ballerina top. There we go. If you click that link, you'll be able to see the finished project and the pattern for it. And then here is the link for people on YouTube. I hope that worked. Oh, sorry. I did not mean to send it on Twitch too. Oh no, Sharkstar, rip. Won't be able to stay long D&D today. Have fun. Ah, Mog, you're so sweet to me. Thank you. Truly, it brightened my day a little bit to have you in here. I love my chat. Okay. What do you think? Are we ready to get started? It looks like there's 40 of us in here. Can I get 4 readies? I have to actually fucking prepare the content. I just realized I had to restart my computer in order to combat tech issues here. Looks like we got all of our readies. Oh my god. Looks like we got all of our readies. We are... Okay, there's only 2 civil engineering failures left, which is hype because the dangers of crowds is like the most morbidly fascinating to me anyway. And then after we get through those playlists, then we'll probably move on to something else. Bumble Kitty introduced me to a cool thing. I lost all the information. It's called the Magnus Archives. I lost my links for it when I restarted my computer. For some reason, it didn't come back up when I restored my Chrome tabs. It's just not there. And the history, I opened it so long ago that it's not like in my history anymore. But I think we'll start doing the Magnus Archives tomorrow. And that way we'll have more screen real estate too, which will be nice. And I won't have to move around so much. Maybe cat fails next. No, we do creepy stuff here. Creepy. Yeah, I think that we will. Tarantulas move their legs with the hydraulic. Yeah, they don't have muscles. Who doesn't love mechanical engineering much better than civil? And I'm not biased at all. Handful of idiots. Is there something that you'd like to share with the class? Okay. There's that. I'm so sorry that I didn't have this prepared. I'm the worst streamer of all time. I'm sorry. Okay, I saw all the readies. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Spooky cat fails. You silly Billy Goats. I know that we did readies, but can we do readies again? I'm so sorry. I need 4 of them before I've paused for so long. People might have gotten up. Also, I fucking forgot to get water. Ugh. I'll just have to get it later. I do have this. If we listen to TMA, you may want to think about reading the content warnings they list, because I feel like if anybody's in here, they should know better than to need content warnings to watch my content. Content warning, every stream, every content warning from here forward. All right, let's go. It was just a thought. I'm in no way upset with you or nothing. I hope that didn't come off that way.
2007, the I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge, one of the busiest bridges in Minneapolis, collapsed.
I do have
the bridge
fun
had been
water,
in use
so
for 40 years.
that will just have to be.
And during this
Boo the
time,
architects,
regular
boo them.
inspections had frequently
My parents were
raised
shot in an
concerns
alley,
about its
alley by a
structural
bridge, and now I
integrity.
hate all civil engineers.
The collapse would, however, eventually be traced
I was
to
trying
a
to think of a
design
good
flaw that none of
Batman
these
pun, but
inspections
it's just
had ever
that's
noted,
not going to happen.
and which had been in place for decades before the
Alright.
failure of the bridge.
Here we go, y'all.
In the second half of the 20th century, a highway construction boom was sweeping across America. Minnesota was no exception. Throughout the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s, huge amounts of manpower and funding were poured into building the Twin Cities freeway system between Minneapolis and St. Paul. The I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge, officially known as Bridge 9340, was a key component in this project.
I-35 goes
in the
through,
early 1960s,
like,
the civil
near
engineering
where I'm
companies
from,
Sverdrup
anyway.
and Parcel were tasked with designing the bridge, and after 3 years of construction, the crossing was open to traffic in 1967. The I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge served a crucial role as one of 3 main routes into downtown Minneapolis, a city with one of the highest population densities in the Midwest. By the mid-2000s, the bridge was Minnesota's 3rd busiest, carrying an estimated 140,000 vehicles per day. However, the bridge was not without its issues. Decades of annual inspection at both a state and federal level noted a range of structural problems, including rusting, warped, and corroded metal plates. As early as 1991, the Minnesota Department of Transportation labeled the bridge as structurally deficient, but despite this, the bridge remained open to the public. The funding needed to completely renovate the bridge wasn't readily available, and though deficient, any defects were described as being within tolerable limits for the bridge to be left in place as it was. Interestingly, the I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge was not unique in its rating as structurally deficient. In 2007, in fact, it was just one of 72,500 American
bridges are
bridges
scary. I agree entirely. I feel like
its 2006 inspection report
humans are really bad at all the stuff they're good at. You know what I mean?
The entire structure would be preferable. But this expensive option was deferred in favor of regular maintenance and inspections.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
On the evening of August 1st, 2007, the I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge was filled with rush hour traffic that had come to a near standstill. At the time, the bridge was undergoing general maintenance that had left
anybody else
4
hold
of
their
its 8
breath
lanes
going over
closed,
bridges in the car?
and over 260,000
I know I'm not
kilograms,
the only one.
or
I know that
260
other motherfuckers
tons
do
of
that,
construction
and it came out of
materials
nowhere when they were
resting on the
little.
bridge
They
itself.
just started doing it.
Shortly after 6 p.m., drivers heard a loud snap echo from one of the bridge's beams. This was followed by a louder crash and considerable trembling and shaking throughout the structure. Seconds later, a 300-meter or 1,000-foot section of the bridge's deck collapsed. The southern sections of the bridge fell straight down, landing either in the Mississippi River or on its banks. Meanwhile, the northern end went crashing down into a rail yard, crushing 3 unoccupied freight cars. The impact of the fall was so great, it broke the deck into multiple large pieces of steel and concrete.
That's so scary.
111 vehicles were caught in this collapse, with 17 of them falling into the waters of the Mississippi River. Others were left balancing precariously on the remaining pieces of the bridge, or ended up lodged in the river's muddy banks. The emergency response was rapid and massive in scale. Immediately after the collapse, calls came into the Minnesota State Patrol dispatch through the 911 system.
Invest in infrastructure.
By 6:07 PM,
If any
made the first
government
call
happens to be
coordinate a
watching,
response, and at 6:08
any
PM,
government,
all available
invest in your
emergency staff
infrastructure,
were directed
please.
to head
Thank
to the
you.
I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge. The highest priority tasks were rescuing people from the water and from their vehicles, extinguishing vehicles that were on fire,
I'm looking at you, Republicans.
conducting triage, and providing transport to nearby hospitals.
Skyways really bug you?
Were some of the first to
Skyways
take part
don't
in the
bug
rescue
me
effort.
as long as I
Approximately
don't think about it
100
too much.
ordinary
I
people
am
participated,
really,
including pedestrians
really
who happened to be near the
fucking,
bridge, students and staff from the nearby
afraid of
University
heights,
of Minnesota
and it
East
just
Bank
gets worse
campus,
as I get older.
and construction workers who had been working on the bridge. A group of medical personnel who had been completing a training exercise in a nearby Red Cross building were also among the first on scene.
Oh no.
Emergency workers from near and far poured into the area to support the rescue effort. One coordinator noted that, "We didn't view it as a Minneapolis incident. It was a city, county, and state incident." Watercraft from more than a dozen different public safety agencies arrived within an hour of the collapse.
There we go.
And did everything they
Oh
could
my
to
goodness,
rescue
I'm so
those who had
sorry,
been caught
guys.
up
I
in
didn't
the
realize that I
disaster.
had that backwards.
However, by 7:27 PM, it was concluded that everyone who could be saved had been saved, and the difficult decision was made to shift the response from a rescue to a recovery operation. In total, this recovery effort took more than 3 weeks. The FBI Underwater Search and Evidence Response Team and the U.S. Naval Sea Systems Command Mobile Diving and Salvage Teams both lent resources and expertise to the effort.
It's like we've
Through
done
their
had it
dedicated
this
and
way for
painstaking
so long.
work, victims of the disaster were removed from the scene one by one until, on August 20th, 19 days after the collapse, the last victim was
Sunday
finally
crochet.
recovered.
That
His
would
name
not
was
be
Gregory Jolstad,
my ideal way to
known
go.
as Jolly to his friends and family.
Jolly is a
He was a
very
member of the
fucking cute
construction
nickname.
crew
Darla
that had
Rosa,
been
it's so good to see you.
undertaking
How are
general
you?
maintenance on the bridge
Hacks
when
that
it
you've
fell
missed
that
nearly
summer's
nothing.
afternoon.
A bridge fell.
In total,
a
190
long time ago,
people
though.
were on or near the bridge when it collapsed. 145 people were injured, and sadly, 13 people lost their lives. In the aftermath of the collapse, one question was on everyone's mind. How could such a catastrophic failure occur on a bridge that was so frequently used and so often inspected? Within 24 hours of the accident, investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board were sent to the site to try and find an answer to this question. This investigation included looking into the potential impacts of the weather, traffic, and even the solvents which were used to melt ice in the winter. The corrosion and rusting which had earned the bridge a rating
really
of
hard
structurally deficient were at
slip
first
stitch
assumed to be contributing factors.
into a
But it eventually
chain
emerged that
you
these
have to
issues
keep a
had not
fucking
significantly
stitch marker
contributed
in.
to the collapse.
13 dead, no biggie,
Instead,
no biggie.
it was determined that an error in design
Right?
made during the bridge's original construction
Fucking
was to blame.
legit. Like, we'll have a school
Moreover,
shooting
this
and
flaw had
6
gone
people will
unnoticed
die.
for more than 40
And
years.
the
Through
nation
repeated
fucking
and thorough
is
inspections
devastated.
that
Still
had
won't do
time
anything
and
about gun
again
control, but is
identified
devastated.
multiple
Fucking
other
a
issues
bridge
with the
collapses,
bridge.
13 people die,
The failure
and
had
nobody
occurred
fucking
because
knows
of a
about
flaw
it.
in a gusset
Nobody
plate
goddamn
used to
hears
support
about
the
it.
truss of the bridge.
The fuck?
This plate was found to be
Ugh.
only half as thick as it should have been, a weakness exacerbated
Okay,
by the
1, 2,
fact
3,
that
4,
the
we're
load
about
the
to
bridge
start
carried
row
had
5,
increased over time
so-
as new road surfaces were added. The massive amount of construction equipment left on the bridge during maintenance works had also contributed to the eventual failure of the plate. Inspections had repeatedly caught other issues with the bridge, but it had at no point been standard practice to check for design flaws like this during regular inspections. Though the flaw had been in plain sight for decades, it had gone entirely unnoticed. Understandably, the collapse raised concerns about other bridges, not just in Minnesota
That was
but
a
across the
lie.
US. As a measure
Hold
to
on.
prevent similar
2,
accidents,
4,
guidelines
6,
have since been
8,
issued
10,
to ensure
12,
that inspections
14,
catch
16.
problems with gusset plates and with bridge design more broadly. Government officials across the nation were also compelled to increase inspections and direct money
Give me
towards
2 shakes,
improved
y'all.
bridge
So
renovation
sorry.
and maintenance. However, to this day, many bridges in the US are still categorized as structurally deficient, with the funds needed to repair them simply
So
not
we just
available.
go until round 26.
Efforts to replace the I-35 West Mississippi River Bridge were fast-tracked, as it was an essential piece of infrastructure for those living in Minnesota. Within 3 days of the collapse, Congress had authorized around $250 million to rebuild it. The replacement bridge opened on the 18th of September 2008, just over 1 year
aggressively
after
anti-gun
the
control. My sister and I
collapse.
both had a school shooting experience.
Even though a new
And my
bridge
sister had
has
to
now
watch
been
one of the
constructed,
outside
allowing
doors
day-to-day life in the city
in case
to
the
return to
shooter
normal,
tried to break
the
in
failure
through
of
it.
the original
Jesus.
bridge has not been forgotten. On the 1st of August 2011, the 4-year
Agree,
anniversary
Shark
of the
Star.
collapse,
That's what we're all
the
trying
35
to
West
say. I
Bridge
hope it doesn't come
Remembrance Garden
across
was
like we're
opened to the
being
public
too
to
blasé.
commemorate victims and honor survivors of the disaster. Inside this garden, 13 columns represent the individuals who lost their lives, ensuring that the names and stories of the victims live on.
Like, imagine just fucking driving to work and you die because somebody believes that, like, more money should go to the police force and less to the bridge that you have to drive over. Are you fucking kidding me? Bridge collapses are why armies have to break marching order when crossing. The marching can result in the bridge shaking itself apart. Is that true?
On the 12th of March, 1928, just before midnight, the St. Francis Dam in Los Angeles County, California, failed catastrophically.
Oh
The
no,
dam, built
King
just a few
Onatsu.
years
I
before,
will try to
had been
remember to
holding back
just
around
call you
47 million
Your
cubic
Highness.
meters, or 12.4 billion gallons of water. Now, as the concrete of the dam crumbled,
Oh, right.
this
2,
water
4,
swept
6,
down the Santa
8,
Clarita
10,
River
12,
Valley
14,
in a
16.
gargantuan
We only need to do
wave,
10 more
destroying
rows
everything
before
in
we
its
get to
path.
move on.
The collapse
from
of the
this.
dam would turn out to be one of the worst
I'm so
civil engineering
excited.
disasters
Okay, let's just
in American
let's
history.
just be fast. We don't need
The
no
city
markers.
of Los
We
Angeles
do need
grew
markers for
rapidly
this
during
part,
the first
but
half of the
we don't
20th
need
century,
no markers
with its population
to,
rising from
keep
100,000 in
the row
1900
anymore.
to more than 500,000 in 1920. Water had been in short
I don't know
supply in
why
the
I
area for
ever
decades, and this
decided that was
population boom
necessary.
only
It's
made
just
matters
a pain
worse.
in my ass.
In charge of addressing this chronic water
If only the
shortage
troll
was
toll
William
could be used to
Mulholland,
fix the
a
infrastructure
brilliant,
of the bridges.
self-taught engineer.
Right? That's like what I
Having
said.
started
Take
out
it
as a
from the
ditch
police.
tender,
That's
he had
exactly
studied hard
what I
and worked
said.
his way up to become the head of the Los Angeles Bureau of Waterworks and Supplies.
Mechanical resonance is the
Mulholland's
tendency of a
first
mechanical
solution was to
system to
build a
respond
massive aqueduct,
at greater
a
amplitude when the
series of
frequency of its
pipes and reservoirs
oscillations
that could
matches the
transport
system's
huge
natural
amounts of
frequency
water
of
from the Owens
vibration
River in the
than it
Sierra
does at
Nevada
other
mountains
frequencies.
directly to the
So,
burgeoning
like,
city
the
of Los
natural
Angeles. The
frequency that
project,
exists
completed
within
in
the bridge
1913,
already.
was a stunning example of engineering.
Interesting.
The aqueduct carried water 375 kilometers,
Okay.
or 233 miles,
Can you all
using
see
gravity
okay?
alone, ensuring an ongoing supply of fresh water for the city of Los Angeles. While the aqueduct was great news for the residents of Los Angeles, it certainly did not find favor with those living and working in the area that it took water from.
I
With so much
imagine.
water diverted out of the Owens River, farmers on its banks could no longer properly irrigate their fields, and the economy of the region was devastated. Feelings ran so high, in fact, that there were frequent attacks on the aqueduct. Furious residents would use dynamite to blow up sections of pipeline,
Bardic
or
means
else
is a storm
covertly
coming?
open sluice gates to disrupt the flow of water. While certainly effective at bringing water to the city,
Or is it just
the
like
aqueduct was
ghosts?
extremely controversial. Mulholland's work, however, was not complete. A more reliable water source was needed to protect the growing city in times of drought, or to provide a backup should the aqueduct ever be taken out of action. Mulholland decided that a giant reservoir should be constructed, and in 1924, work began on a project to dam a section of the San Francisquito Canyon in order to do just that. Construction lasted 2 years.
Bungee Fox, it
with
was
the
probably
dam finally
Galloping
opened
Gertie,
in
the
1926.
predecessor to the Golden
The
Gate
finished
Bridge.
dam was actually 3
Bet.
meters, or 10 feet, taller than had originally been planned. A change which massively increased the capacity of the reservoir behind the dam, but also necessitated the construction of
I
an
tried to
extra
go
wing
back
to
and
the structure.
watch one
The
time,
completed dam was an
and I got
imposing
really sad
stepped
that Grant
concrete
is
wall,
dead, and I couldn't watch
supplemented
it.
by
It
a
like
long,
it just
low
ruined it. I
dike
couldn't
on one
watch it.
side, which turned the canyon into a reservoir big enough to see Los Angeles
I just
through
wasn't
even
ready
the driest of dry spells.
for a Grantless, like,
Very early
okay, it's
on
not a
in its
Grantless
life,
experience,
some cracks
but like
appeared in the dam.
to be
This
reminded
wasn't
that we're all
abnormal
having a
for a
Grantless
dam of the
experience
size
for the
and
rest of our
design
lives.
of the
You
St.
know what I
Francis
mean?
Dam, and thus didn't cause any great alarm, at least not until 1928. It was in this year, with the
Wait,
reservoir
what? Grant
almost completely
Inahara.
full, that new
Is it
cracks
Ima
were
or
observed in the
Ina?
structure,
I
along
think
with
it's
the
Ina?
seepage of
Inahara?
muddy water, something
He
which
died.
could
He
indicate
had a
that
brain
the
aneurysm,
foundations
I
of the
think.
dam were being
It's
eroded away.
tragic. He was my favorite
Mulholland
one.
himself
He was
was
my
called
favorite
to
one. I love
inspect
him.
the dam on the 12th of March, 1928.
You had such a crush on
and came
Grant?
away
Yeah,
with
dude.
the impression that corrective action was required, but not urgently. It
Cute
was mere
and
hours
brainy,
after he
like
made this assessment, however, that the dam gave way. The failure of the dam was swift and violent.
that's 9.
So
this
violent,
is the
in fact, that nobody who witnessed it survived to tell the tale. Within just a few minutes, the concrete of the dam broke
I think
into
that we
several
can switch
pieces,
to every
with
20
huge
now.
chunks blasted downriver by the pressure of the water behind them.
Intracranial aneurysm.
Only a
It's
single
so sad,
narrow
man.
segment of the dam remained standing and intact. As the dam gave way, a wave the height of a 13-story building was unleashed and flooded down the Santa Clarita River Valley, annihilating almost everything in its path. One of the first structures to be destroyed by the flood was the cottage of the dam keeper, which was so thoroughly swept away that neither his body nor the body of his young son were ever found.
Oh, that's so sad.
A little further downriver stood one of several hydroelectric power
14.
stations situated in the valley. This was completely destroyed, with the
15.
loss of all
By the
but
way,
3
anybody
of the
watching this
workers
in the
employed
West,
there.
like, don't worry
The housing
yourselves
and various
none
support
about any
structures for
floods
power plant
anytime
workers
fucking
were
soon,
also
hey?
destroyed, with whole families killed in the space of just minutes. As the wave continued down the river valley, it struck one small town after another.
Absolutely, Sharkstar.
Houses were flattened, buildings picked up and swept away by the force of the flood. The water became a torrent of debris, including trees, motor vehicles, the remains of pulverized buildings, and also people. In many cases, there was no warning for
Water's
the residents
scary.
of the
Oh,
towns
yeah,
hit by
dude.
the flood.
Respect
People
water.
were swept from their beds and carried for mile upon mile in a seething
6,
torrent
9,
of
12,
water
15,
and debris.
16.
Many drowned, but many more were
17.
killed when they were struck by objects carried by the flood. Some people were lucky enough to receive a warning before the flood wave reached them.
18.
Telephone operators, once aware of the disaster, spent hours systematically calling the homes of people in low-lying towns, warning them to flee to higher ground. Meanwhile, 2 highway patrol officers, Thornton Baker and Stanley Edwards, rode motorcycles back and forth through Santa Clara with their sirens on, ordering anyone they encountered to evacuate.
Silencio Steve!
Thanks to these
I
interventions,
mean, it floods around
hundreds of
here a
people
lot
were
more
able to make a
recently,
last
though
minute
that's
dash
been
to
due
higher
to
ground.
sheer rainfall at the
Though
moment.
they lost
that's been due to
everything in
sheer
the flood,
rainfall at the moment.
they at
Coulda
least
just let-
escaped with their lives.
Could have just let dude
At
do his
around
thing.
5:30
Sorry.
a.m.,
It's good
the
to see you,
wave
Steve.
reached
Thank
the
you so much
coast,
for the
where it
35
emptied out
months.
its
I
cargo
appreciate
of
that so
debris,
much.
dead bodies, and a few dogged survivors into the Pacific Ocean. Hundreds of victims were never recovered,
High viral
while
infection.
some
It's good to
bodies
see
were
you.
found as far south as the Mexican border. Over the course of 5.5 hours, the wave had carved out a path
Yeah,
of
Mothman,
absolute
I'm glad that you
destruction
came out of that
along the
okay. That
course of
shit's
the river valley.
dangerous.
At least 431 people, and probably many more, were dead. Thousands of homes and businesses were destroyed, and several communities had been all but wiped from the map. In the immediate aftermath, an
So
explanation was
devastating.
sought. Because of attacks on the Los Angeles aqueduct in previous years, some suspected that the dam had been sabotaged. But multiple inquiries found no evidence of
I'm
this.
sorry, Clara. Have
Instead,
a good night.
It was determined
Thanks
at
for
the
coming
time
in
that the
and
foundations
blessing
of
us
the
with your
dam
presence
had
at
been
least.
defective. Mulholland, devastated by the disaster, accepted full responsibility for it and retired
Wife
in the same
B-Rex
year,
already?
stating,
I'm waiting so
"Don't
long
blame
to ship
anybody
this.
else. You just fasten it on me."
Okay, a
If
couple
there is
years
an
ago,
error
it's
of
been a
human
while now,
judgment,
but a couple years
I
ago,
was the
I fake
human.
flirted with him for fun,
was,
and he
however,
reacted
not
so
charged with
viscerally
any crime.
disgusted.
Almost
I
every
promise
inquiry
you,
into
me
the
and B-Rex
disaster
is never going to
concluded that he
happen.
had made
Also, on
decisions
top
that
of that,
were
I'm
correct
like
and appropriate
madly in
based
love
on the
with my
knowledge that was
partner,
available at the
Josiah. I'm
time.
sorry, bud.
In the decades since the collapse of the St. Francis Dam, our understanding of what went wrong has evolved significantly. We now understand in much greater detail
B-Rex
how
told
the
me,
geology of the
and I
canyon
quote,
contributed
that would
to
be
the
like
failure
if I
by
banged my
allowing
sister,
water to seep in and saturate
but
the
not
hillside
because we're
into which the dam was
particularly
anchored.
close or anything.
We also
The
understand the
burn
phenomenon
was
of hydraulic uplift,
first degree.
whereby the presence of water underneath a structure like a dam can lift it up,
And clearly it has
contributing to
stayed
a
with me.
catastrophic
I didn't
collapse.
even mean it.
From a modern
Like, I wasn't
perspective,
even actually
numerous
fucking.
mistakes were made in the
Like,
siting,
I wasn't even.
construction,
I didn't
and
even mean
management
it.
of
Like,
the
I wasn't
dam.
actually trying to
But
get
our
that
understanding
Rex
of these
titty or
issues is the
nothing.
product of many years of dedicated study,
First degree isn't that okay?
experimentation,
Third
and
degree.
experience.
Sorry, I got my degrees
When
mixed
Mulholland
up.
supervised the building of the St. Francis Dam, all of this knowledge was yet to be garnered.
Yeah,
He
there
conformed
we
to
go.
the standards
There was
of the
bone
time.
damage.
And it was only when the project failed in such a devastating fashion that it was realized that these standards were insufficient.
The constant
Many
shipping
changes
is
took
real.
place as a
Yeah,
result
I
of
mean,
the collapse.
Romance is
Dams
fun.
across the country
It's fun.
were
It's
inspected,
nice.
and several were reinforced.
Gives you the good chemicals,
The
and like
regulation of
the news
construction
and
of
real
dams
life
was
is.
stepped up. It was made mandatory to consult a dedicated geologist on
We
any
need that
large-scale
dopamine right
construction
now.
project.
Like, I get it.
And, perhaps most importantly of all, the Board of Registration for
You are
Civil
not being
Engineers
rude. You're
was created,
A-okay. Let us
and
know if there's
engineers
any
were
way we can
required
support.
to be licensed.
Hope you feel better
The
soon.
idea of a self-taught engineer became, very quickly, a thing of the past. The tall, tombstone-like piece of the dam, which survived the collapse, stood for just over a year before it was demolished, to prevent it becoming a morbid tourist
I'm always
attraction.
scared that I come off
Evidence
as
of the
rude too.
disaster
I think because
is
I have
still to
such
be
a like
found to this day,
sharp
however,
voice,
all along the route that the flood wave took that night in
and like I
1928.
speak with conviction. I'm
Huge
very
chunks of
assertive.
rubble remain
I
at
think
the
that
site
people
of the dam.
find me very
Memorials
bitchy
are
a lot of the
sited up
time
and down
when
the
I
river
am
valley,
not trying to
and
be.
the event is an indelible part of the history of the region.
You have an interview tomorrow.
Though almost a century in the past, the failure of the St. Francis Dam is still remembered. And still
Mott,
shapes
that's
the
so
modern
rough
world.
that our brains just decide to fucking do that to us sometimes. Like, okay, y'all want to hear something? It's kind of personal. It's kind of personal, but me and Josiah have been talking about birth control because I'm starting to get to the age where I should stop taking birth control pills. You're supposed to stop taking them at 35. I'm 36. And I don't want blood clots. I don't want that. So we were talking about it, and it started to give me a little bit of anxiety about not having a baby yet. And I have to keep reminding myself, you don't want a baby yet. I'm hopeful as long as they kind of like me, I can get it, because the listing shows they're urgently hiring. Yeah, you're gonna do great. It's all about that FOMO, yeah, in a big way. Okay, so that one, done. We killed that playlist. Oh! No, we did. Yeah, we're all the way through this playlist. Sick. Now we've got the danger of crowds. Pardon, Bardic Muse, so sorry.
On the 3rd of December, 1979,
My
English
child
rock
free
band
by
The
choice
Who
friends are my
was scheduled
favorite,
to
yeah.
play a concert at the Riverfront Coliseum in
Baby Zero
Cincinnati,
Doxy born
Ohio.
year 2077,
Thousands
right?
of general admission ticket holders gathered
I will be
outside the venue
92.
hours before the scheduled start of the concert, but were kept waiting outside by organisers while final arrangements were made for the night's performance. When the go-ahead was finally given to let the waiting crowd inside, only 2 doors were opened. 2 doors.
10 Angry Bears. Thank you so much for the follow, all 10 of ya. I will try to
their fans would be dead.
Try to be gentle and sweet so as to not set you off.
The Who were at the
Birth
time
control
of the
past
disaster,
35 news to me.
undertaking
I'm
the
32.
US leg
Yep.
of a world
When
tour.
once you hit
Tickets to see them
35,
were in incredibly high demand.
roundabout, like it's different for everyone.
18,348
but
tickets
roundabout
were put on sale
35,
for the concert at the Riverfront Coliseum,
your blood just
and every
clots
single one of them
easier.
was sold in under 2 hours.
Happily infertile. Yeah, fair enough.
As with many concerts at the time, the
Have
majority
it on
of
good
these tickets
authority.
were sold
Human
on a
immortality will be
festival
perfected
seating
10
basis.
years before the person making
Another
the
way of
prediction
describing
is
this
likely
might
to
be
die.
first come, first served. Under the festival seating
It's a
system,
little concerning when both
general
parents and
admission
child
ticket
need
holders
help
could pick
going
their
to the
seats
bathroom.
within an assigned
Speaking of which,
area.
Caitlin Bennett had a
And
baby.
so those who entered the venue
Sorry,
first would
that was not
generally
nice.
get a better view than those who came later.
But
This
legit,
system
who's potty
was not
training
without
who?
its problems.
They keep me
When
young.
seating
They're
wasn't
always
assigned,
willing to hang out with
many
me when I
people would
want,
sit in
away
the
from the
aisles
kids.
for a better view,
I see.
sometimes completely
That's the thing
blocking
about
them.
being child free is that I'm
Minor
always
crushes
fucking
were
willing to
also
babysit.
common, as fans would often gather outside venues.
That's interesting. I've been on the
hours
depot
before
shop for
concerts
well over a
began,
decade now. I'm
and
honestly
then
worried
rush
about
the
coming
gates
off of
when
it,
they
but
opened
damn,
in
is
a
it a
race
blessing
the
for now?
best seats
Yeah,
in the house.
condoms are the worst. I hate them.
On the 3rd of December,
But,
1979, this is exactly
fucking with
what
my
happened.
hormones
Many
is
ticket
also
holders
a
had been told
fresh
by a
hell.
local radio station that they would be
And,
granted admission from 3 p.m.
The only
And so
and
arrived
like
a few
it's
hours before that at 1 p.m.
bad for you when you're over
They gathered in the
35
car
because you
park
can just
outside the
get
Riverfront Coliseum,
spontaneous fucking
smoking,
blood clots
drinking,
from it.
socializing, and waiting
Jesus,
for the doors to
Louises.
open.
I'm terrible
But
at
the doors
everything.
did not open.
No more babies for me. I willingly,
time
gratefully, and
passed,
happily
the crowd
yeeted the
swelled.
uterus last year. Was
At
that?
around 3
And
p.m.,
please don't
police were
feel,
called
please
in
don't
to
feel
manage the
obligated
growing
to answer
number of
this.
people
But was that
outside the venue.
easy
By most
to
estimates, there were
like
several
recover
thousand
from?
people
Hi,
present at
Quinn.
this
It sucks
time,
having no kids.
with
All I
more
do is
arriving
whatever I
every
want
hour.
all the time.
The doors
I bet you're the
remained
coolest babysitter
shut.
ever. I am. I
As the
definitely
hours
am.
wore on, the crowd
I'm just
concentrated around the closed
fully
doors,
yes.
poised for
It's
the moment
true.
when they would finally be opened.
They're great because no
By
infections,
7
baby.
p.m.,
Totally.
4 long,
Use
full
condoms.
hours
Use
after many
them.
in the crowd had been
They just-
told they would be granted admission. Some fans were
I'm
losing
a hard
patience.
O.
Small
I very,
crushes
very,
developed
very
around
rarely
several of the
owe.
doors,
Um,
with people pinned in place against
it's-
the glass.
Using a condom
unable
means
to
it's
move
not going to
as
happen.
those
Like, I
behind
just,
them
it
pushed
won't
blindly
happen.
forwards.
I want to eat mine. I'm not supposed to have any sort
The
of
venue,
commonly
however,
gendered
wasn't
items.
ready.
Yeah, that's fair.
Organisers didn't have enough staff available to act
Turned
as
33
ticket
this year. Been
takers,
off it since
and
26
also wanted
because
to
of what
allow
it was
the
doing
band
to
time
my
for one
hormones on it. I
final
also have
sound check
endometriosis.
before the concert began.
Yo, my periods
This
are
sound check,
my
according to
PMS is
some
so
witness
brutal that my
testimony,
doctor thought
played
that I
a
had
fateful role in
endometriosis
what
when I was
happened
younger,
next.
but upon further testing
From
and stuff, we
outside the
found that I
venue,
don't.
it
That
may
I
have
just have
sounded
like
as though the concert was
really
beginning,
painful PMS.
something which caused patrons at the back of
During
the
a
crowd
quick break
to
from the
start
escape
pushing.
room, do you get to
At roughly
deliver?
the same time,
Quinn, do you get to
2
deliver the
doors
hints?
on the right side of the main entrance were opened.
Pretend
The
I'm
result
stuck
was
on the
an
part where
intense
everybody gets
crush
stuck and
around
give me a
these
hint.
doors. Staff from the Coliseum tried to hold the crowd back while they doggedly checked tickets.
I think I saw Yeet the Uterus
The
perform their
crowd
latest album at a
compacted,
bar last week.
creating not a stampede,
It was surprisingly
but a
easy, but you will
slow,
think you are good to go
steady
about 2 weeks
squeeze,
later and your
which
body will straight up
lasted
stop
around
you if you
half
do
an
too
hour.
much. Yeah, fair enough.
Reports of the crush note that people were pressed up against the glass doors or picked up
Oh,
and
that's right.
carried by
We're-
the sheer pressure of the crowd.
The stream is
Survivors
turning into
report
sex aid.
feeling that they were trampling
not
on
against
fallen
it, go
concertgoers, but being so
We're very
tightly
pro
pinned
sex
in
here.
place, they were unable to do
You're
anything
never
but
gonna find
scream
us
for those
shaming
further back in the
people
mass of
for
people
being
to
sexual
stop
or anything like
pushing.
that. If anybody ever has
One
any
survivor
questions about
recalls
sex,
quite
I'm a
vividly
little bit of a
being
sexpert.
stuck, standing in a crowd
So
so tight
I'm
that
happy
everyone
to
around
help
him
with
was
any kind of
straining
sex education.
upwards,
I know there's a lot of
mouths
people here
open,
that
just trying
are
to breathe.
either kind of
The
socially
heat of
a little
bodies
bit
created
behind,
a visible
or,
vapor cloud over the densely packed throng of
also
people.
there's like high school students and stuff that hang out in here sometimes,
The
and
police,
people just have
watching from
questions
outside
about sex
the venue,
sometimes, and
refused to help.
I am quite
In
sex-experienced.
part, perhaps because they believed
I will
the
stop
crowd to
doing
be
that now. I'm so
composed
sorry.
largely of
There's 15 in
hysterical
total
drug
of the thing you're
users.
looking for. Okay, thank
Several
you.
survivors report
Thank you.
escaping the crush.
There are,
and running
just so
to
you
the
guys
police
know,
to beg them to
$15.
take action,
There are
only
$15.
to be reprimanded and told to refrain
Keep
from
looking,
telling the police
everyone.
how to do their job. In any event, no help was forthcoming from the authorities. But
My
what about
kidney
the
stone
staff
removal
within the
last
venue?
week was worse.
It
Interesting.
appears that
Also,
they
I'm
didn't
so
realise
sorry that
the
you had to have a
magnitude of the
kidney
crush
stone.
until
Ugh.
after most of the concert-goers had been admitted.
Yours are helping the hormone
Although
side of your
several people
fibromyalgia. Yeah,
died
it's
within
crazy.
minutes
It's
of
so
the crush
different from
beginning,
everybody,
their
huh?
bodies were held in a standing
For
position by
everybody.
the pressure of the crowd.
Sorry.
Only once the crowd cleared did the dead and injured become
I bet this is a better
evident.
place to learn about sex ed than high school
Also
sex ed.
revealed
Depending
was
on
a
where you're
raft
from.
of shoes, wallets,
I'm not gonna fucking lie to
clothing,
you.
and
I'm
other
not gonna
personal
say.
effects
I'm
that
not
had
going to
been
encourage you to
ripped
be
from the
abstinent
bodies of
because that's
those in the
garbage.
crush, along with
Uh,
thousands of bloody
Sex is one of the
footprints.
most hardwired biological
Indeed,
impulses we have.
some patrons
Not
would
everybody
only
has it,
later
and that's
discover
fine.
blood
And I
on
will
their
never shame or
shoes.
judge you for that. You do you. But
Management
like,
of
it's
the
something that
Riverside
most of us
Coliseum
are
assessed their
programmed to
options
believe that
and
we
decided
need.
to go ahead with the concert as planned, despite the carnage.
Thus,
Cancelling it,
incel
they feared,
murders.
might result in
Like crazy.
another crush,
You took
as
sex ed in
18,000
Utah.
angry patrons
No!
poured out of the venue.
See you later, Steve. Have a good
While
one. Thanks
the
for hanging
Who
out.
took to the stage,
Hey, I never found out.
the
Are you
dead
interested in
were
doing Night
removed
Mind
from the
content at all?
scene,
I will
and
message
the
you after.
seriously
I will
injured
message you after
transported
stream.
to hospital.
Sorry, yeah, I like just barely noticed
11
that you had
people
messaged me
died
over
as
the
a result
weekend
of the
as I
crush.
was sitting down and then had lots
They
of
were 22-year-old
tech issues pulled
Walter
me away from
Adams Jr.,
Discord. And I was late anyway because
18-year-old
always.
Peter Bowes,
It's hard for me to ask questions about only because it reminds me
21-year-old
of the time I was at a
Connie Sue
BDSM
Burns,
panel at a queer conference and they asked if
15-year-old
anyone has
Jacqueline
questions and my stupid
Eckel,
Tourette's went, me?
19-year-old
And all
David
300
Peck,
plus people looked at my sex repulsed
27-year-old
curious. Yeah,
Ava
uncomfy
Ray
butt.
Ladd,
Oh, Moth. Oh, no.
15-year-old
I'm
Karen
so sorry that
Morrison,
happened to you.
19-year-old Stefan Preston,
There was a health
20-year-old
class. Yeah,
Philip
that's how we
Snyder,
did it too. We didn't have a sex ed class. We had a
17-year-old Brian Wagner,
sex ed like
and
unit in
21-year-old
health every
James
year.
Warmoth.
A 6mm stone
The
stuck
Who were
in
not
the
told
tube
what
that
had
runs from your
happened
bladder
until
to your
after they
kidney.
finished playing.
I forget the name of that,
By
but I
all
get
accounts,
infections
they
there
were
sometimes.
immensely
It's not
distraught.
fun.
They considered
And then had
cancelling
another
the rest of their
8mm
tour,
one
but realized
stuck
that if they
behind the
did so,
6mm
they would
one.
never play again.
No.
Instead, they dedicated their next concert to the fans that had died.
Hi, Warden
with the
Fox. I'm so
words,
sorry. Can I
"We lost
ask you
a
to
lot of
speak only
family
English in
last
here?
night."
I don't
This
mean
shows for
to
them.
judge. I think that Spanish is a beautiful language.
Interviews
I
show
love it.
that
Would
even
that I could
decades
know
later,
every single language and
members of the
speak
band
every
are
single
still
language.
haunted by the
But
disaster.
all of us in here, our common language is
The response
English,
to the
and it
tragedy
just helps
from
with the
wider world
moderating.
was, at times, unsympathetic.
And also, I want to be able to understand
Some
what you're saying.
commentators blamed the victims. The crowd, they alleged, had been drunk and violent.
You're 31 and
had
haven't had
behaved
sex yet?
like
That's
animals.
so normal. That's so much more normal
The
than
crush
you
was
think it is,
initially
bud.
reported as a stampede
Please
of
don't worry.
drug-crazed youths, a description which many who had been involved in the incident
20 stud
hotly
findings
disputed.
or stud finders at yourself to say that this thing must be
As
broken.
the disaster was
To
investigated,
invasive
it became
instinct.
clear that the use
That
of
and telling
festival
the
seating
or
had
asking
played
the
a key role in events,
cashier if it's free if
and
it won't ring
moreover,
through.
that there had been
right?
many warning signs of an impending tragedy.
I have never wanted to unalive more
There
than the
had,
week I had to
for
deal with that.
example,
Yeah, I can
been
imagine.
minor
I'm
crushes
so
at
sorry that
several
happened to
previous
you.
concerts.
Ever had
The
Bud
venue
Light
had been
Platinum? It's definitely my favorite beer. I
repeatedly
haven't.
criticised for
I do
fire
not
safety
really
violations,
like
for overselling events,
Budweiser
and
beers,
for refusing to
though.
cooperate with the police in
You love my
emergency
crochet?
situations.
Thank you so much, Warden Fox.
Many of these accusations were
I'm really
disputed
proud of
by
it. This
Coliseum
this yarn
management, who
tends
insisted
to
that
stick.
since the
See you later,
area
Quinn. Have a good
immediately
night.
outside their doors
This
was
yarn
city
tends to
property,
stick to my
they really
skin
weren't responsible
really
for
bad,
what
so it's hard to
happened.
get the
Further to
the
this,
tension,
many people, including
right?
fire chiefs and city
But
councillors,
this
had
tension is
criticised
immaculate,
festival
if I
seating
may so
specifically,
if I may say so
noting
myself.
that the
This
problem
is
was getting worse
Bernat
over
Softy
time
Baby
as
yarn.
concert-goers turned up
Give me
at the
one
venue
moment here. I have
earlier
it.
and earlier. Again, Coliseum
I have it
management
weighed
waved
down
away
because it's too
concerns,
big for my
claiming that
yarn bowl.
concert-goers liked festival seating.
So I just like
and
have a
that
bunch of
as
stuff
such,
piled on
it
top
should
of it
remain.
to weigh it down. Like a fucking
As a result of the
goblin.
Who concert crush, some action was finally taken. Cincinnati, along with several other cities, banned festival seating, and
It's
now
this.
limits the number of
Sorry that
tickets
it's upside
may be sold
down.
for an event to guarantee a certain amount of space.
But if
per
I
person
turn this
inside the
around, I'm
venue.
going to knock down 1,000 things
News
on my
of the
desk. I'm
disaster
so
helped
sorry.
to propagate these measures, and unassigned seating at rock concerts is now almost never permitted. The Riverfront Coliseum
One of your
has
faves.
greatly
Yeah,
improved its
I
safety
really like
record
it. I
and
really wish it didn't
rebranded.
stick to my skin so much. I
It is
don't know
now
if it's
known
because
as
I
the
have
Heritage Bank
hyperhidrosis. I
Centre.
oversweat on my palms really bad.
More
Or
than
if it's
35 years after the disaster,
or
a
if
memorial
it's
marker was installed on site,
just the
bearing the
yarn.
names of those who died. The text on the marker
That tattoo
gives
is
a
amazing.
brief
Thank
summary
you.
of
You're
events
just
that
full of
transpired on the
compliments,
3rd of
and I am
December,
honestly here for it.
1979.
I need it so bad.
11 concertgoers, trapped in a crush of people, died at the Southwest Plaza entrance to the Riverfront Coliseum,
Hell yeah,
waiting
Moth.
to see The Who. Many others were injured in what was the deadliest
I had my
concert
appendix
tragedy
out too.
in United States history.
In the hospital, all kinds of fucked
The
up.
tragedy
After,
spurred passage
first of
a
all,
crowd safety
y'all,
ordinance, which
do
became
you guys want
a
to hear
model
my
for the
story
world.
about my appendicitis? Marco just brought you a dead pigeon? No! Nucky! Okay, hold on. Let me pause this, and I'll tell you guys all about my fucking appendicitis experience. It was brutal. Okay, so... Excuse me. Sorry, I had a couple of belches. So what happened was I showed up at the hospital and I was like, I read about what's going on. I had my boyfriend blind quiz me about my symptoms, and I'm pretty sure that I have appendicitis. And they're like, are you sure that it's not an ectopic pregnancy? It sounds like an ectopic pregnancy. And I was just like, I am positive it is not an ectopic pregnancy. It is impossible for it to be an ectopic pregnancy. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and give you a pregnancy test. And I was like, I don't want that. And they're like, well, then you can be discharged against medical advice. And I was like, why don't we just test for and they're like, we're going to pregnancy test you. And then they tested it and they were like, okay, so it turns out you have appendicitis. And I was just like, anyway, they took me back. They immediately operated on me. Like, I didn't have to wait till the morning, nothing. Like, they immediately operated on me. And then when I woke up, I was in the most pain I have ever been in. I could only stay awake long because I kept passing out from the pain. I could only stay awake long enough to either puke or say a cuss. And then I was down and out. We come to find out that the person that inserted the catheter for my IV had stuck the needle in, and the needle came back out of my flesh. So it was like a surface piercing through my flesh, and all of my pain meds were just leaking down my arm into my hospital bed. And I didn't know because I was just like asleep most of the time. And fun fact, to this day, that hospital still treats me like a drug seeker because I kept being like, it hurts, it hurts. And they only found that out. Because I kept asking for more pain meds. And they were like, well, we can't give you any more pain meds than we have given you. And they were like, we have this non-narcotic kind that we'll give you. And I was like, yes, anything. And I gave it, and they gave it to me. And I was like, oh my God, it's so much better. Like, I could stay awake. I could eat something. And then they finally checked it and saw. Like, it was the worst. I could not believe that experience I had. And I didn't sue because I don't want to, like, I don't feel right suing a hospital. Like, I just don't feel right doing that. I don't know. I feel like taking money away from a hospital is a greedy ass move, right? Anyway, and also it's a university hospital. Anyway, yeah. So at that hospital, they still treat me like I'm a drug seeker. They will never give me narcotics, even if it's warranted or anything. But that's okay because I don't go to that hospital. And also, I try to avoid narcotics anyway. So really fucking whatever. Probably some sleep-deprived nurse didn't look closely enough. Yeah, it was absolutely fucking bonkers. How was it not part of procedure to check the IV? Because they thought that I was drug seeking. They were just so mean to me the whole time. Honestly, like, this is from And I am probably going to lose a few of you here, but fuck you if I do. You're the worst. If you got to go after I say this thing, peace. I don't want you here. But like, women are not taken seriously. Women are not taken seriously about their pain at all. Just, and like, I've been in the hospital with other people that were going through way more minor of stuff than me. And they're just like, oh my God, are you okay? Do you think we could clear him for heroin? Or like, just, it's ridiculous. I am specifically afraid of dying of an overdose of narcotics. But like, even when like, it's, I don't know, like literally I got, sorry, earmuffs, anybody that's like medically sensitive or whatever. I also, my IUD, I had an IUD that was given to me, even though I had not carried a baby to term. They put an IUD in me, and it got ripped out. I went into shock, went to that same hospital, and they were like, Tylenol, 600 milligrams. Anyways, we have 60 people in here. Can I get 6 readies, please? And thank you. Appreciate you. Basically, they ignore pain. The most fucked up fact I learned is evidence shows black people haven't been as hit by opioid epidemics as bad because doctors still believe black people feel less pain. It's so disgusting. So fucking disgusting. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. They absolutely should not be able to fuck up, and I'm so sorry. Should not be able to fuck you up to the level you pass out from pain multiple times and then blame you for their mistake. I agree. But like, I am also, to be honest, like, if I think about it, I'm a little bit comforted by the fact that I will never get narcotics if I go to that hospital, because then there's no chance of me overdosing on narcotics, hey? Like, that's something that I'm deeply, deeply phobic of. Anyway, everybody's ready. Let's do this. That was my experience. With, whatever. All the things. Ugh, I just accidentally fucking opened TikTok. There we go. All right, here we go. Oh my God, I'm so excited that we're like more than halfway there with this. I think that if I don't, oh shit. I think that if I don't, get very far on this top tonight, or like November, if we don't get to the end of this part of this top by the end of this week, I'm going to finish it over the weekend. Honestly, I hate prescription drugs. They make me constantly surprised. The
flames were initially.
What's that one that they give you for strep throat and for bronchitis?
Even amused by the efforts of waiting staff to extinguish them.
What is that pain med that they give you for that? That's a narcotic, and it's in Tylenol 3.
They could not possibly have known.
Fuck, what is the name of that one?
Tiny flame.
Codeine.
Within minutes.
Codeine gives me sleep apnea. Like, I wake up not breathing.
In American history.
Can't take morphine. I inherited something from my mother that makes me instantly vomit when it goes into me. Fun evening when I learned that. After surgery, no!
The basement and ground floor.
Accidentally is how TikTok is still a thing.
At the time, prohibition was in full force, and so for the first few years, the venue operated.
See you later, Shark Star. Yeah, good luck with your pigeon problem.
Alcoholic beverages, even though alcohol.
I'm pulling for the
illegal.
Little buddy.
It was able to get away with this thanks to connections the owners had with the world of organized crime.
Codeine doesn't get me high; it makes me afraid. Same, Darla. Same.
The club had a somewhat unsavory reputation.
Shit.
It was known as a favored spot for gangs
12,
and
15,
mobsters.
18, 19. Okay, we're
This
about to do
changed
the 20th
in
one.
1933,
Good to know.
when 2 things happened. First and foremost, prohibition ended, and the sale of alcohol became legal once again. Secondly, the then owner of the Grove was gunned down by a rival, and ownership of the property
20
passed to
toothbrushes
his
on
lawyer,
one Vicodin.
a man named Barnett Wolanski. Under Wolanski's management, and without prohibition to hold it back,
I
the
did
club
enjoy Vicodin.
flourished.
I did enjoy
It
Vicodin
expanded
in a
into
like
a
not
warren
okay
of
way.
rooms across 2 stories, with multiple lounges, bars,
And that shit just
dance
terrifies me.
floors,
That
and
makes me so
restaurants.
scared.
Many of the rooms had a tropical theme, with extensive decoration including fake palm fronds and fabric wall hangings. There was also a famous rolling roof. In good weather, this could be cranked open to allow patrons to dance
That
under the
shit's
stars.
so cool.
Pleasant as it all might sound, Wolanski hadn't entirely steered the club away from its unsavory origins. His connections with the mob, which he denied in public but often boasted about in private, allowed him to flagrantly ignore building codes and safety regulations. For example, Wolanski had several emergency exits hidden, locked or boarded up in order to prevent guests from leaving the venue without paying their bill.
Wow!
Nevertheless, the club soon became one of the most popular spots in Boston, with a constantly changing roster of live entertainment and flocks of paying customers filling every room most nights.
My current doctor refuses to prescribe
night
pain
of the
meds,
disaster,
even
the
though
club was
over-the-counter
packed
doesn't
far
even
beyond
touch my
its
pain.
listed
When I flare,
capacity.
ugh. Time for a new doctor,
Melody Lounge,
if you can.
which was situated in the basement, singer and pianist Goody Goodell was performing on a revolving stage.
That's 8.
Patrons watched from booths
Wow,
and
she's so
tables
cute.
surrounded by
Wow,
fake
wow,
palm
wow.
fronds
I
and
love
lit by
her.
lamps nestled in
Hi, Sleep
coconut
Ninja.
sconces. One couple, wanting a little more privacy, unscrewed the bulb in the sconce nearest to them, extinguishing it. This was witnessed by waiting staff, one of whom ordered a busboy to go and fix the lamp. The busboy did so, striking a match in the process to help him better see what he was doing. With a few quick twists, the lamp was fixed. The busboy extinguished
Almost
the match,
violence
and
to your
everyone went about
OBGYN
their
one time.
business. Moments later, however, witnesses saw
Man,
the first flames in the fake palm fronds which adorned the wall and ceiling around the sconce.
You know how
Waiters
some
rushed
people have a
over
really
and tried to
inflated
extinguish
sense
the
of
flames
respect
using
for
water and
all
seltzer, a
personnel
sight that some found
military?
comedic at
I
first.
feel like I have that with doctors and
Soon,
medical
however,
personnel.
the incident
Handful of
stopped
idiots,
being
thank you so
funny
much for the
at all.
follow. I feel like that was
Fire
earlier.
spread from one palm frond to
And we're
others,
hydrating.
and
I can
then
only
to the
hydrate with
fabric
fun water
covered
because I forgot to
ceiling.
bring a water.
Waiters hauled
thank
decorations
you
down
for
from the
looking out for
walls
me.
in a last-ditch
appreciate you.
attempt to extinguish the fire, but in doing so, opened up the space above the false ceiling, allowing the fire to spread more
Bardic
freely.
Muse, I'm so sorry. I hate how
flames swelled,
not seriously
feeding on the
women
hanging
get taken.
decorations
It's
and
just
fabric wall and ceiling coverings. Sparks and burning scraps of
fucking
material
sucks to be anybody
rained
but a
down
white
on
guy.
patrons, many of whom
Like, it
now
just
recognized
sucks.
the seriousness of the situation. They were sitting in a crowded basement room, along with a rapidly growing fire. From this point onwards, the flames spread with astonishing speed. Patrons sprinted to the staircase from the Melody Lounge up to ground level.
That's the
Some
only
managed to
appropriate
escape with little
response to
more than
that, I
burned
feel
hair.
like.
Others were not so lucky. A huge fireball
You
overtook them,
resubbed?
bursting out
Thank
into the
you.
lobby of the
Thank you for
Coconut Grove,
resubbing, Sleep Ninja.
pushing ahead of it a cloud of deadly fumes. The onset of the disaster was so rapid that some patrons didn't have time to move from their seats before they were dead. When their bodies were found, they were still seated.
Sydney Jace, thank
Still
you so
with their
much for the
drinks in hand.
follow. I appreciate you. Oh my goodness, you guys.
Even for those who did have time
Getting a
to
lot of
leave,
follows
their
today.
escape was hampered by a number of obstacles. Staff, who had not grasped
Feels
the
good,
full
man.
severity of the fire,
White dog.
blocked exits, demanding people pay their checks before they leave. Some patrons tried to fetch their coats or other possessions before leaving, delaying their
KW3L.
own exit and getting in the way of those who did want to
Quell?
flee. As the lights
Thank you for
inside
the follow.
club
I
failed,
appreciate you. Thank you.
chairs and tables were overturned, creating trip hazards for those now trying to find their way out in the dark.
Yeah, Hacksmat's been here.
While all these things contributed to the death toll, the most serious problem was the lack of exits. As hundreds of patrons tried to flee, inward opening emergency exit doors soon became jammed with bodies, preventing anybody from
I
escaping.
feel like
through
I
them.
agree with you, Pondwater. Yeah, that is among
Worse
the best
still
way.
was the main door of the club, a revolving door that became almost instantly clogged with those trying to escape.
Can you
Many
imagine getting
people stuck
smushed in a
this
revolving
crush were,
door? Oof.
unfortunately, still alive when the fire reached them.
Which fire is this? I don't
Firefighters
remember the
happened to
name.
be
I'm the
nearby at the time of the
worst.
blaze, extinguishing
Coconut
an automobile
Grove.
fire. After spotting smoke over the Coconut
Old time
Grove,
watcher from the
they
early
rushed
YouTube
to the
days. Thank you
scene
so
and
much. I'm
started
glad that you
attempting to
enjoy the
rescue
content
victims
shift.
and control the flames.
I lost a lot of people when I
This was
switched
an
from video
astoundingly
games
difficult
to crochet, but
Bodies were packed so tightly in the
I'm
doorways
just so
that
much
in many
happier.
cases, it was
I'm
impossible
just
to
so
haul
much
anyone
happier
free.
doing it this way.
Some firefighters sustained cuts.
Thank you
and
so much. That
grazes
means
as trapped
everything.
patrons
Thank you
clawed
for
at them,
being here. Thank you for
desperate to
hanging
be
in there with
rescued.
me. Hi,
Those who
Lycan.
could be
How's it
dragged
going?
clear were often so severely burned that the heat radiating from their bodies burned the hands of firefighters in turn.
That's really
In
sad.
addition to the heat, the rescuers had to contend with cold as well. The outside temperature fell drastically as the night set in, and very soon fire hoses were frozen to the ground, and survivors who had escaped the flames were at risk of hypothermia. Despite this multitude of adversity, there were survivors even amongst those who had been deep in the nightclub
The
when the fire
fair?
began.
Oh.
Staff fared better than patrons.
I thought you were asking
as
me
they
how
knew
the fair
layout of the
is.
club and were often able to escape through
You
windows
sweet
and
boy.
hatches, rather than getting caught up in the crushes at the emergency
It's
exits.
really sad, Sleep Ninja.
Several people also survived
It's
by
all
hiding in a walk-in
Because,
freezer,
surprise, surprise,
from
the
which they
greed
were
of a rich
eventually
dude.
rescued by firefighters. Hospitals in the
36,
area
9,
received
12,
an
15,
unprecedented
18,
influx of patients.
1920. Wait, really?
More than 400 casualties
Yep.
were brought in for
2,
emergency
5,
treatment within
8,
just an hour
11,
or two.
14,
In
17,
a
20.
stroke
Okay,
of
sick.
extreme good fortune, local hospitals were very well prepared for this sudden rush.
Went to a Renaissance festival with your
World
mom
War
yesterday.
II looming
Fun!
on the horizon,
Did you get any
hospitals
fun
had been
souvenirs or
stockpiling medical
anything?
supplies and
There it is,
preparing
Sleep
for the
Ninja!
worst-case scenario of an attack on the
Hooray!
east coast of the
Thank you.
USA.
I
The Sleep
appreciate
Ninja
you.
Sparkler. Oh, okay.
While
Now
these
it's giving me the
circumstances
message option.
ensured that victims had
Tears of
excellent
joy.
care and medical treatment, it was, in many cases, to no avail.
Never been to a Ren
Of the
fair. Always been
victims that were
curious.
still
You gotta
alive
go,
when they
man.
reached hospital, more than half subsequently perished.
Do
Their
not be
injuries were too
seduced by the
severe,
beer.
and the medical technology available
It's
to
gross
treat burns
and
smoke
expensive.
inhalation in 1942
But other than that,
too
go
basic
and
to
have
save.
fun.
Ultimately, the Coconut
You bought a
Grove fire
tunic, a quiver,
claimed the
a cheap
lives
geode,
of
and your mama's satchel. That's so
492
sweet,
people.
like and biker. I'm so happy to hear that you had such a fun time.
An investigation was launched.
And you got some cool
The
stuff.
exact cause of the fire was difficult to determine.
The hard ciders at
Had
yours
it
are
been
10
the
out of 10.
bulb the couple in
Really?
the Melody Lounge had
We
loosened
only
in order to
we
give
always only
themselves
ever
some
have
privacy?
hot like Bud Light
Or
and Bush.
Had it been the match the busboy lit while trying to screw the bulb?
But
back
I'm
on?
in Canada now, so I wonder if
No
there are
definitive
Ren
answer
fairs
was
around
reached on this
here,
matter,
or if that's like a
but the
decidedly
busboy was
American
identified
thing.
by investigators.
Usually seduced by the beautiful
His name
boobas.
was
I mean,
Stanley Tomaszewski, and he was just 16 years
can't be
old,
mad about booba.
too young to have been legally employed at the club.
If people want to show off their booba, I want to
Many were
look.
quick to blame Stanley for the incident,
100 out of
but he was
100
ultimately
times.
cleared of all charges. This was, first and foremost, because
Thank
it
you
could not
so
be
much
definitively determined
To all the women
whether
who
the bulb
do
or the
God's
match
work
had been the source
and
of
wear
ignition,
low-cut shirts. Thank you so
but also
fucking
because
much.
the initial source of
Genuinely.
ignition scarcely mattered. The interior of the club
are the
should have
saviors
been
of the
fireproof
universe.
enough that a hot
And I
bulb or
salute
dropped
you.
match could not start a deadly blaze. The real blame lay with the owner of the club. Barnett Wolanski had cut many corners during remodeling.
You want to go to a Renaissance festival so
flagrantly
bad?
ignoring
Yeah,
building
it's a
codes
very
and
good
using
time.
unlicensed contractors. He had done so without fear of any consequences. his connections to organised crime ensured that his establishment would pass all safety inspections without a hitch. Indeed, the Grove had been inspected little more than a week before the fire, and declared safe, despite numerous highly visible safety violations.
What? Rich people doing themselves dangerous favors at the expense of poor people? What?
Rather than outwards, the report
Darn.
noted that some materials used to decorate the venue might have contributed to the fire.
I don't know. Maybe
The
this will
decorative
make them
palm
learn.
fronds, for example,
Maybe this
were
will
known
make
to be
them
flammable
learn.
and had in fact caught fire many times before. Although on those occasions, waiting staff had
If
always
you
been
had
able to
kick-ass
extinguish
boobies,
the
you'd never
flames
leave the
before
house.
they spread.
You would. You would just
Worse
also
still,
spend your time
some
brushing your
faux leather
teeth
seats
topless
inside the
and
Grove were
laughing.
found to be made of material that was not only not fireproof, but which gave off a flammable gas when burned.
Did you post pictures in there?
While what had caused the
Like
fire
in?
remained up for debate, the conditions which allowed it to spread so terrifyingly quickly were obvious, and fell at the feet of the club's corrupt owner. Wolanski was tried and convicted of 19 counts of manslaughter.
Rory.
The number was set at 19 because it would have been impractical to try him for the deaths of all 492 victims. Thus, 19 were selected at random from the dead to represent the victims. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, but pardoned by the governor of Massachusetts after just 4. In the end, then, the man most responsible for the terrible loss of life at the Grove served less than 3 days for each victim. The long-term effects of the fire were wide-ranging. The treatment of burns victims was revolutionized by the incident.
No
Different treatments
comment.
were administered to the victims at different hospitals, and by comparing the results, it was possible to see which treatments were the most effective. The large number of victims provided statistical significance to the comparison, and allowed old and ineffective treatments to be thrown out in favour of more modern ones. 2 doctors who were working on the night of the Coconut Grove fire
Remember, this was the
went on to
1940s.
invent a
Things
chart
have
for
changed.
measuring the severity and coverage of burns, a chart which is still in use to this day. Elsewhere, changes were
You're
made
right.
to building codes across the
There
state
are
of
now
Massachusetts in the wake
harsher
of the disaster.
punishments in the South for women who want
Many of
abortion.
these
So
changes
we have that
subsequently
going
spread
for us.
to other states, and even worldwide.
Now the governor waits until the end of their term to
It
wait
is in
4
large
years.
part
Oh.
because of the Coconut Grove fire, for example, that in modern-day buildings, all revolving doors
That was very
are flanked
funny.
by normal
Shit.
outward opening doors. A change which might have made all the difference on November 28, 1942. The victims present then stood little chance of escape, and less chance still of recovery from their injuries. But the lessons learned in the aftermath of their death are many and varied, and give countless other potential victims a greater shot at survival, another chance at life.
My favorite beer? That is a big question. I am like very, very passionate about beer. I don't get to drink it because I don't even have to get drunk to get a hangover, and my hangovers last at least one full day from one sleep to the next, if not longer than that. I just am really, really sensitive to alcohol. But I love beer. I love beer so much. If I had to pick a beer that it was the only beer I could drink for the rest of my life, it would probably be Moose Drool. I think that's from Big Sky, if I remember correctly. I haven't had one in years. My favorite cheap beer is PBR. It's just, I just like it. I just like PBR. It's just good. And then, like, my favorite category of beers, if not nut brown, then sour. It's harder to buy a house now than in the Great Depression. Yeah, it's harder to buy a house now than it ever has been. I am so ready to answer, Sperry.
At 3 p.m.,
on the 16th of June, 1883.
If I'm picking a beer that is the only
a
beer I
children's
can
magic
ever
show
drink,
began at
is this
Victoria
beer
Hall,
guaranteed to be
a
available
theatre in
wherever I go?
Sunderland, England.
In this hypothetical that I
The venue was packed
answered
with
for,
children of all
absolutely yes.
ages. As many as 1,500
Because Moose Drool
boys
is
and
not
girls had paid a
available
penny
like
each
outside of
to
the
see show.
Midwest, except for in like very specialty
As
beer
the
stores.
entertainers took to the stage and the
Sophia,
magic began,
thank you so much for the
none
follow.
present
I
in their
appreciate it.
seats
You
knew
guys, I
that
cannot
almost
even
1
believe how many
in 7
followers we're
of the
getting today.
audience would not
That's
leave
so
the
wonderful.
theatre building alive.
Sperry, have you ever had a Moose Drool? Do you like nut browns?
Victoria Hall was built just over 10 years before the disaster. It was an imposing
You've never
brick
heard of Moose
building,
Drool? It's so
constructed
good.
in a Gothic
It has a
style that was
disgusting
popular
name,
at the time.
but it's really fucking
The main
good.
auditorium housed a stage
3,
and
6,
3
9,
levels of
12,
seating.
15. Okay,
The
I
ground
was like,
floor,
why
or
is this
pit,
so far away? Okay,
the dress
we're
circle,
good. Everything's
and the
good.
gallery high above.
Never had a moose Drool, but you
Due
love
to
browns.
its
Yeah, if
high
you ever get the
capacity, it
opportunity, it's
quickly
one of my
became a
favorites, and it's
popular
like
venue for
reasonably.
public meetings,
It's like it's
religious
supposedly like a
gatherings, and all different
mid-tier,
kinds of
like a
entertainment.
mid-grade beer, but I love
Variety
it.
shows,
I
theatrical
genuinely love it.
performances and concerts.
Hello,
all
first
had
time
their
popping in. That
place
is a
at
gorgeous
Victoria
pattern you are
Hall.
using. Oh my God, Sophia! It is
A children's magic show
available
was
for
thus
free
not
if
at all
you
an unusual offering for this venue.
exclamation point pattern
This
in
particular
chat.
show was
There's a
orchestrated by
picture
travelling showbiz
of the
couple
finished
from out of
project,
town,
what it will look like,
Mr.
and the
Mrs.
pattern is
Fay.
available for free.
Flyers
So by all
distributed
means,
for the
go
event
nuts, and
boasted
also
that there would
welcome.
be
Everybody join me in
conjuring,
making Sophia
talking
feel welcome.
waxworks, living marionettes,
You've heard of Moose Head and
something
Moose
known
Knuckle?
as
Yeah,
the
nope.
Great Ghost Illusion.
You're very,
among
very
other
so
wonders.
welcome, Sophia.
Additionally, it was promised that every child entering the room would stand the chance of receiving a handsome
Kika, where'd you
present
go?
in the form of a small book or toy. Few young
Okay, that
people
was
who saw that
18.
flyer could resist the lure of such
No,
a
that's
show.
15, right?
Hundreds of children delved into their pocket money or pestered their parents for the penny
Can't
they'd
drink,
need
it
to gain
fucks with your
admittance.
anxiety too much. The hangover the next
When the
day, I
phase
will
took
1
to the
million
stage
%
on the
have
16th of
more than
June,
one panic attack
was to a crowded
during
and
my
lively
hangover
theatre.
day. Can't drink beer,
The show
crushed a
itself
half-filled
went
can
smoothly.
in my dad's shop that had been
The
sitting for
phase
God
had
knows
performed their magic
how many months in
times
the
before
unair-conditioned
and
Texas
in many
heat.
other
You
venues,
vomited? Oh
delighting
no.
thousands of children across England.
Oh no. Hi, Jet
Most
Lagging,
shows
how
had
are
been
you?
Without major
Good to see you.
incident, and until the very end, this was no exception.
So happy to see you coming
Indeed,
back.
the most noteworthy thing that happened was almost comical. A puff of smoke from one of the illusions didn't agree with some of the kids in the front row, and caused 1 or 2 of them to be sick. This aside, the audience, almost entirely comprised of children with very few adults present, was delighted by the performance.
Oh no, this is gonna
As
be
the final
brutal,
act
isn't it?
concluded, the phase announced that children holding tickets with certain numbers on them would be awarded a small prize as they exited the theatre. At the same time, they started throwing handfuls of toys and sweets into the crowd. This is when everything went wrong. The Fays were throwing their treats into the ground floor seating area, with none reaching the dress circle or gallery above. The children seated in these upper areas were, quite naturally, dismayed by this, and many left their seats to run down to the ground floor and grab their share of prizes.
Okay, alright, that's less just like...
These children were excited.
I mean, it's
Hyped
on a
up
disaster
after an
video,
exhilarating
though.
show that, for some of them, would have been
I
far more
don't
dramatic
feel
than
relieved,
anything they'd seen
idiot.
before. They were without adult supervision, and they were young. For the most part, their ages were measured in single digits.
Oh no. Hi, Kika! Hi,
All
baby
these
kitty!
things being the case,
Come
the
here!
children knew no restraint. They charged down
Sorry,
the
give me a
stairs in
second. I'm
mass
gonna
and as fast as they could. At the bottom of these
pay
stairs,
attention to
a
my
swinging
sick
door gave
elderly
access
cat.
to the ground floor
Come here.
auditorium. On this day, the door had been bolted into position only partially open, leaving a gap of
Precious
just
boy.
50 centimetres, or 20 inches, through which these excitable children could pass.
Hi. I love
This
you
had been
so
done,
much.
presumably, to
You
allow
are so
tickets to be
loved,
checked
kitty
on the way
kitty.
into the auditorium at the start of the show.
How old? He's 16.
Now, this narrow doorway became a death trap. As the children piled in, it wasn't long before one tripped and fell. More stumbled over their fallen friend, all while hundreds of other kids
I love
pressed in
sours,
from behind.
Catalan,
Within the
and
space
Sleep
of
Ninja.
minutes,
I love fruity
fallen
sours,
children were
which is
stacked
crazy
like
because I've
cordwood
never
in a
liked
doorway,
fruity beers before,
with the
like
ones at the bottom
saisons
of the pile
with
being crushed
fruit
by
and
those
stuff. I've
above.
never been a fan. Or like
Some
when,
reports
for
state
some
that
reason,
the pile of
Leinenkugels
bodies in the
did that
corridor
line,
reached
the like
20
berry
deep
vice
from
and stuff like
floor
that.
to
I've never
ceiling.
really liked fruit beers that much, but
This horrendous
I
situation
do
was
love
worsened
a
by the
nice
fact
lambic,
that there
and
was
I
a
do
turn
love
in the
a fruity
staircase.
sour. Hi, baby.
The children at the top could not see what was going on below, and so continued to surge forward.
Your cat was 22
further
when she
crushing
passed
and
last year.
suffocating
That's a
those
good
trapped at
long
the
line.
front.
She hung on for a long time because of your love,
William
hey?
Codling Jr., a survivor of the crush, later gave this particularly haunting statement.
That's wonderful that she made it
Soon,
to 22.
we were most uncomfortably packed, but
I'm
still
sorry.
going down.
I'm sorry for your loss, though. That's
Suddenly,
so
I
so
felt
hard.
that I was treading upon someone
There's
lying
nothing
on the
as
stairs,
helpless
and I
as a
cried
sick or
in horror
dying
to
pet,
those
right?
behind.
There's nothing as
Keep
helpless
back.
feeling as that.
Keep
If-
back, there's
I imagine
someone
maybe a
down.
sick or dying kid, but
It
I
was
wouldn't
no
know.
use. I passed
Slam
slowly
blah
over
when I'm feeling
and onwards with the
fruity.
mass, and before long, I passed over others.
Is anyone else
without
hearing
emotion.
whispers? Nope. You okay, bud?
Few adults were present throughout this horror. One of the first to become aware of what was happening was the theatre caretaker, Frederick Graham. This man did his best to haul children to safety through the narrow opening, but found
least
that they
with
were
a
packed
kid,
too tightly for him
So
to be
they
able to
can
free them.
communicate to you what's going on if
He
it's not a
instead
baby.
ran up another staircase and
You
led
okay,
approximately
Becky?
600 children to safety through an alternative exit. With some of the pressure relieved, other adults who arrived on the scene were able to start pulling children to safety. The door itself was eventually wrenched from its hinges, and within half an hour, every child, alive or dead, had been removed from the stairwell. The survivors were rushed to hospital, while the dead were laid out on the pavement.
Just keep
There
thinking
were a
you hear
great
someone
many
whispering.
casualties,
Do you
and many
make
were
sure
in
that
terrible
all of your other
condition,
tabs
having been
are
suffocated
closed
and crushed
if you're
extensively.
on your PC?
As news of the tragedy spread,
And also, maybe
parents
is somebody fucking with
descended
you?
on the theatre to look for their children. Many only found
If not,
what they were
no
looking
shame
in the rows of the dead.
talking to a doctor about that whatsoever.
Reports tell of at least one man who, having walked the length of these rows, collapsed in tears, lamenting out loud that he had lost not just one child, but his entire family.
Jeez.
Separately, it was discovered that the incident had claimed the lives of every single child in one class at a local Sunday school.
Jeez.
In total, 183 children were killed in the crush, most from asphyxiation. The incident made headlines around the country and even reached the ears of reigning Queen Victoria. The Queen sent along her condolences, along with a hefty contribution to a fund that had been set up in the wake of the disaster. This money was sufficient to pay for the funerals of all 183 children, which took place over the course of an entire
183
week.
children snuffed out in one
Businesses in Sunderland
fell
remained shut
swoop.
throughout this time, as a mark of respect for the dead.
All right, Vicky.
An inquest was held into
I
the disaster.
imagine there's
it
an
failed to
explanation and
find
all there
anyone to blame.
somewhere. But again, if
A
not,
second
like,
inquest,
legit,
prompted
no
by
shame
public
whatsoever
outrage,
in talking to a
had the
doctor
same
about
result.
it.
Nobody knew who had
Better
bolted
to
the
be
door
ahead of that
shut to
stuff,
leave
right?
such a narrow gap, or who had failed to unbolt it after tickets were taken. Despite the spectre of the tragedy, the theatre continued to
So
stand.
the theater manager
and to
managed to
operate
lead
for
600
more
out
than
there to
50
safety. Just how
years.
many kids were in that theater? That's insane.
It would
Sign of the times
ultimately
because
be
there would have been so
destroyed
many
by
more
a
adults
German
present
parachute
nowadays.
mine
Yeah.
during World War II.
Like, even from the time that I was a kid,
The building, which
it's so
by
much
then
different.
was considered both
It's
ugly
so much
and
different.
an unpleasant reminder of a tragic disaster, wasn't badly missed by locals. The Fays were criticised during the inquest, but were not blamed for the
36,
disaster.
9, 12,
Once the
13.
furore had died down, they continued to work as travelling entertainers, although they never again put on a children's show, and never returned to Sunderland. A memorial to the victims was erected in Mowbray Park, close to the site of Victoria Hall.
Why would they make it such a
The
macabre
marble statue
statue?
depicts a weeping mother cradling the body of her child.
Jesus.
Over the years, it has undergone several restorations and movements, but it remains standing. You can find it in Mowbray Park, protected from vandals by a glass
That's really
canopy,
sad, Sperry. I'm sorry to
the
hear that.
only
I'm glad that it
visual
went
reminder
away.
of the disaster which took place nearby.
Our brains are capable of
There
so
is,
many
however, one other
fascinating,
legacy of the Victoria
wonderful,
Hall stampede.
and horrible things, hey?
Robert Alexander Briggs, a young boy living in Sunderland at the time of the disaster, was so
God,
shocked
Sperry,
by the
that makes me so
incident
sad
he
that you
resolved
had to go through
no
that.
such thing should ever happen again.
I don't like the idea of anything bad
Just
happening
8 years
to you.
later,
To any of
having
you.
studied and become an engineer,
But obvious favoritism
he
towards
patented
Sperry
a
right
special
now.
type of bolt that would keep a door secure from the outside, but would always allow anyone inside the building to escape. It was the first iteration of the crash bar that we now see fitted to almost every emergency exit in a public building. This invention, over the many years it has been in use, has saved not just hundreds of lives, but thousands. In that sense, it is, perhaps, the best possible tribute that anyone could make to the children who died in Victoria Hall on that day in 1883.
All right. That was a heavy one. I got to pee so bad, y'all. I think it's time for a quick commercial break. Also, it's been an hour and a half, which is a Twitch no-no. So if y'all don't mind hanging tight for anywhere between 3 and like 10 minutes, we'll be back shortly. Don't go anywhere, and we will watch some more children dying, stomping death videos. We'll be right back. Chat room, hello. How are we doing? I missed you very much. I forgot to get water again. That's okay. That's okay. Everything's okay. Hi, Amethyst Scales. Welcome. Kels! I put my baby gravy inside you.
Captivating Jazero Sparkler. Hey baby, you're looking as hot as always. I've put my baby gravy inside you.
I love that the text-to-speech bot calls you captivating Che Zero. That is so funny to me. Also, it's good to see you, and thank you so much for resubbing. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. All right, we can stop the music here. And if I could just get, ooh, we lost some folks. If I could just get 4 readies in chat, we will get the show back on the road. Y'all always pause 1 before the number that I need. You guys, you keep me on my toes. I'll tell you that much. All right, back to work. Good night, Dragon Rana. Have a good one. Bye.
At around 9 p.m. on the 28th of May, 1977, a fire began at the Beverly Hills Supper Club, a sprawling entertainment venue and nightclub just outside Cincinnati. Despite plenty of warning that a fire had started, many of the 3,000 guests within the building that evening were unable to evacuate in time. The blaze ultimately claimed 165 lives, making it the 3rd deadliest in US history.
Beverly Hills
The Beverly Hills Supper Club was constructed in 1937 and operated as a high-class venue offering dinner, drinks, and cabaret entertainment.
Okay.
Entertainers came from as far afield as Las Vegas, Nashville, and Hollywood.
Sounds
fun.
There. I'll die in that stampede. That sounds like a good time.
So popular was it, in fact, that in the early 1970s it began to expand. Several extensions were cobbled onto the original structure, resulting in a sprawling and extensive entertainment complex with multiple stages, dining rooms, and event spaces.
Typically, a fire causes a stampede,
the building itself was made of material classified as non-combustible. It was lushly decorated with wooden paneling, thick carpets.
What's a supper club, Kels?
The historical building had no sprinkler system, nor any smoke detectors, and the ad hoc manner in which extensions had been added meant that some of the larger event spaces had no exits leading directly outside. On Saturday the 28th of May, 1977, the club was filled beyond capacity. John Davidson, a popular singer at the time, was performing in the cabaret room, and excited patrons had filled not only every seat, but the ramps and aisles as well. The room,
$13.95 for a concert
of 600 persons, may have held as many as 1,300 that night. Elsewhere, patrons were dining at the club's gourmet eateries or attending private gatherings in the building's many suites and event spaces. The total number of guests inside the entire complex was estimated to be around 3,000, twice the number that the club could safely accommodate.
Okay, that is a thing though. Like, there's a reason that there's safety limitations on buildings and stuff.
A small event space near the main entrance
I love this guy.
At the time, hosting a wedding reception. The guests in the Zebra Room left early after complaining that the heating in the room was far too high.
Buffets for your parents to go to when they want to act like they're high class, but they're just as middle class.
Little did these guests know that faulty wiring in the ceiling had started a small, smouldering fire. After the last guest left, This fire burned quietly away until 9 p.m, at which point an employee smelled smoke and opened the Zebra Room door to investigate. Two things happened simultaneously when that employee opened the Zebra
Go
Room
to supper
door.
club, then you get home to watch Matlock.
One was that she confirmed the presence of a fire in the building. This led to the fire department being called and to several employees grabbing fire extinguishers and piling into the room to try and fight the flames. The other thing that happened was that oxygen entered the room. Lots of it, enough to stoke what had been a smouldering fire up into a healthy, all-consuming blaze.
What is it? What is the
Things
figure?
moved
I feel like
quickly
it's
after that.
3 minutes to go
At
from a small
9:01
fire
PM,
to a structure
the fire
fire.
department
3
received their
minutes,
first
something
call
like that.
and set out for the supper club. They arrived at 9:05 p.m. by which
J-Rod, it
time
means you
smoke
fit
was
in here.
pouring from the building. Staff inside had given up hope of being able to fight the fire and were instead moving quickly through the complex in all directions, attempting to alert as many patrons as they could. The club, remember, had no alarm system, and so it was down to individual employees to order evacuations from every room, every corridor, every auditorium. It was 9:06 p.m. when busboy
You're
Walter
proudly
Bailey
bougie.
arrived
I
at the
wish I could
cabaret
be
room
bougie.
with news of the fire. To his utter dismay, supervisors were reluctant to interrupt the warm-up act on stage. They saw no smoke or flames, and when Walter Bailey
I'm
told
so
them
low
of a
class, I
fire
wish
at the
there was
front
a
of the
caste
building,
system so
probably
that even if
imagined
I was
a
in the
tiny
lowest
kitchen
class,
fire,
I would still have it
something
better
that the
than I
staff
have
down that end
it.
of the building would surely deal with before it got out of hand. They saw no reason to evacuate.
Also,
a
maybe
room
I
full of
don't make light of
excited
there
and,
being a
more
caste
importantly,
system in other
paying
places.
customers.
Sorry, I apologize. That was maybe really insensitive. I'm sorry.
Faced with this indifference, Walter Bailey, a junior employee just out of college, did
Oh
something
no, is it
remarkable.
terribly difficult?
His act of
Hi,
bravery
Leslie!
is especially noteworthy
Hi, how
when you
are
consider
you?
that he suffered from intense stage fright.
Oh, poor
Walter
boy.
Bailey marched to the front of the room, climbed up on stage, seized a microphone from a bemused performer, and informed everyone present
Fuck.
that there was a fire and that they should evacuate at once.
I have to
There
pull
may
this
have been
close
as
for a
many
minute. I'm
as
so sorry.
1,300 people in the cabaret room at that moment in time. If every single one
Kika!
had instantly and calmly heeded Walter Bailey's warning, they might
Kika!
just possibly
I don't know if
have
you guys
been
can
able to
hear him
evacuate in
crying.
time.
Just have to fight to get up, and wiping
As
is a
it
struggle.
was,
I'm so
however,
sorry,
only a
Vicky.
few
I
hundred
wish I could
people
help
started
you.
moving towards the exits. The rest remained. They saw no smoke or flames, they felt safe where they were. They had paid a lot of money for their tickets and did not wish for their evening to be
Yeah, they
disrupted.
paid $13 whole
For a
and then
range of
part of
reasons,
another.
While a few
Wiping
hundred
is
lucky souls
overrated, you
evacuated, the
grossty.
majority of guests in the cabaret room remained in their seats. They remained there for just 4 minutes. At 9:10 p.m, the fire shorted out the power in the building, plunging every room and corridor into darkness.
That's terrifying.
At almost the same moment, the smell of smoke and burning reached the cabaret room.
That's so
Patrons
scary.
panicked.
That is so
Leaping to their
fucking
feet,
scary.
they pushed and shoved, stumbling in the dark, trampling others beneath their feet. The exits to the rooms quickly became a crush of bodies. The situation only worsened when flames raced through the building and blocked 2 of the 3 exits. Now,
Sorry, y'all. I have
hundreds of
shitty
desperate
eyes.
people were trying to escape through just one set of double doors. Reports from firefighters and survivors describe people stacked like cordwood in the doorway, with desperate patrons hurling themselves again and again at the opening, scrambling over bodies both dead and alive in order to escape.
That's really, really
When the
sad
door
and
became
scary.
completely
Fuck,
jammed
man.
with bodies, employees and rescuers found
It's
that
wild
no
to
amount
me
of
that we
pulling
don't
could free
all,
them from
like,
the crush.
take over our
They were
lizard
locked in,
brain and say,
trapped.
okay, stay calm, and we can all get
Worse
out
still,
of this fine.
Some of the first people to escape from the cabaret room subsequently became lost in the twisting, turning corridors of the supper club. The multiple extensions
Leslie, is
that
it
had been added
better?
to the building in the 1970s had turned it into a maze.
I do love a bidet. I can't
Firefighters
have one
from
here.
every
The
department
plumbing
in the
doesn't
county
support it here, and
battled
I'm
bravely
really
against the
upset about it.
flames, but in many parts of the building were simply forced to retreat by walls of smoke and incredibly high temperatures.
Your girl washes her
At
asshole a
11:30
lot more.
PM, certain that the
She's
roof was about to collapse, Fire Command ordered all firefighters to evacuate
Or
the
even
building.
just, when someone says fire, you should evacuate.
This turned
Yeah.
out to be a wise decision. At around midnight,
What about putting
the
in a
roof
tushy? What's a
imploded,
tushy? Can you link
turning
me?
what remained of the
J-Rod,
building into a
will you
pile
DM it
of
to me?
burning wreckage
What's
that
a tushy?
smoldered for 2
Is it a
whole
miracle
days.
thing that people without good plumbing can use?
The fire resulted in 165 deaths.
Also, are they expensive?
162
Because I'm
of
very
whom
poor.
died on the scene, and 3 of whom died in hospital after being rescued. The vast majority of the dead were found in the cabaret room, where bodies were found piled in massive heaps at all of the available exits. Indeed, only 2 of the dead were found elsewhere in the building. As soon as the recovery operation was complete, an investigation was launched.
Oh my god,
It
I've been
discovered a
trying
range
to
of
figure
safety
out
violations,
what this
including the
music
absence of
reminds
an
me
alarm
of that he
system,
uses.
no firewalls, a profusion
It
of
reminds
flammable
me
material in the building, no sprinklers, and no
Of Welcome to
employee
the
training.
Game. Good night,
More
Moth.
than anything else, though,
Sleep well.
overcrowding was to blame for the
It's
disaster.
very pretty, easier to read, and on time. So no, I hate it.
Witnesses
Change
gave
it.
unsettling
Okay.
testimony about visits
Okay.
to the club in the months before the fire, complaining that the cabaret room was often so crowded with bodies that waitresses couldn't reach patrons in order to serve drinks. In these conditions, a high death count was inevitable. In the aftermath, the 3 top fire officials in Kentucky were suspended, accused of conducting improper
game still
fire
terrifies
safety
you?
investigations.
Man, I
number
liked
of
it.
lawsuits
I
were
really
also
liked
launched by
it.
the
But
families of
anytime I had a good
victims.
run going, the dev would come
These were
in.
combined into
and,
a single
like,
class
make it
action
harder.
lawsuit, which eventually resulted in a $10 million settlement from the General Electric Company, who had made the faulty wiring which caused the fire in the first instance. The site has remained undeveloped
Oh
since
no,
the fire,
Catalyst.
although in 2020 it was acquired for the development of an entertainment complex. This new venue will include a memorial to the deceased from the fire.
You love that
And
game? Watching people try to
Thanks
beat it was
to
the
changes
best.
in laws and regulations over time,
I'm
changes
still salty.
inspired by disasters such as this will be much safer than the Beverly Hills Supper Club ever was.
I had such a fucking good run going. Like, I was going to win that run. Oh no, the Forest sequel got pushed back. That's too bad. The Forest is such a good game. That was a very fun game. I'm so excited for this one.
In the middle of July 1518, seemingly without reason, residents of the French town of Strasbourg began dancing compulsively in the
Same
streets,
as
with
everything,
many
or
unable to
every
stop
stream,
even when
Leslie,
restrained
crochet and
or
creepy shit.
physically exhausted. The dancers continued day and night, with many dancing until they collapsed and died. The mysterious dancing plague, which lasted into the heat of August, is said to have claimed as many as 400 lives. The bizarre outbreak began with a single woman, Frau Truffaut, who danced on her own for almost a week before she was joined by several others. As soon as the plague started spreading, more were quick to join in, and by the second week around 30 people were affected. It is documented that the dancers would continue their frenzied jigs long past the point of injury. Some would froth at the mouth.
You guys are
Some
goofy.
appeared to be gripped by painful convulsions. They moved without music, without joy, and seemingly without control.
So
When
did these
one
people just
dancer
like have
dropped dead of
rabies or
exhaustion,
what?
The others would continue to dance around the body, unable even to move away. Many cried
Like,
out
was
for
this
help
some
from
sort of weird
onlookers as they
prion
danced.
disease?
But how to help these people? The city council were baffled by the incident and tried a number of cures. These ranged from restraining dancers by wrapping them in cloth to herding the dancing masses into guild halls where music was laid on in the hope that it would help the dancers to exercise the need
Welcome
to dance
back,
from their
Vicky.
bodies. If anything, however, this only exacerbated the problem. Modern explanations for what happened that summer range from mass epilepsy to communal food poisoning with a psychoactive substance. The true explanation is much simpler, however, and much more unnerving. The Strasbourg dancing plague of 1518 was not a unique incident.
Really?
Similar plagues of manic dancing had struck small towns and villages all along the River Rhine for many years, but these had affected a relatively small number of people and had often subsided without any deaths. The only thing that affected settlements had in common was a belief system, specifically the belief in St. Vitus, a Catholic saint. It was believed by many that St. Vitus could curse the sinful to dance themselves to death.
Whatever.
This strongly held belief, combined with the stress of seeing others dance against their will, may have been what compelled many of the dancers to join in the mania. The problem was in their minds, but no less real and no less deadly for that.
That is fucking
As
crazy.
St. Vitus had caused the plague, St.
What?
Vitus would prove to be the only functional solution to it. After almost 2 months, officials hit upon the idea of taking affected dancers to a mountaintop shrine to the saint, where they could
Religion
pray
is so
for
bad and
absolution.
dumb. I'm sorry.
Given this chance to set their guilty souls at ease, many dancers found that they were able to regain control of their limbs and finally stop dancing. The plague, thus cured, died out in the early days of September 1518. It would be the most severe and the last dancing plague ever to strike Europe. As belief in St. Vitus died out, so too did this strange and deadly phenomenon.
Well,
It remains
good.
recorded in the history books as one of
Fuck.
the
Quit
strangest
church,
episodes
everybody.
of mass mania
Jesus.
ever to occur.
One, two, three, four. Okay. This is sick music right now. I love this. That was dope. I love that. Was that an electric violin? We watched this one, and
At
I don't want to watch it
11:07
again
PM
because
on the 20th of February 2003.
it's macabre. I hope y'all don't mind. Because I'm not watching it again.
On the 25th of May 1950, at around 6:30 p.m, a crowded tram was making its way through the streets of Chicago. As it approached a switch in the track, the driver missed the frantic signals of a worker on the street and ploughed through the track switch at high speed.
Oh no.
Immediately, the tram collided with a fully loaded tanker truck hauling
Oh
gasoline.
no.
Fuel spilled out and ignited in a giant fireball,
Oh
beginning
no.
one of the most deadly public transit disasters in Chicago's history.
That's so much bad in
1950,
one fell
streetcars
swoop.
were a common
Jesus.
sight in Chicago. The city had just purchased hundreds of new electric trams, which,
Yeah,
due to their distinctive
majorly.
green and
Pond
cream
water.
colouring, came to be known as Green Hornets. These vehicles could seat around 57 passengers apiece, with room for more standing. Each Green Hornet was staffed by 2 Chicago Transit Authority workers. A driver would pilot the vehicle,
Oops.
while a conductor would sit at the rear doors to take tickets and answer passenger queries. To ride, you'd board through a wide door at the back of the vehicle, take a seat, and then disboard through 2 narrower doors further up the car when your destination was reached. Although, like every other tram or streetcar, the Green Hornets ran on rails, their routes weren't always fixed. Streetcars could be moved between different tracks using switches and turned around using loops situated all over the network. Often streetcars would be required to use alternate routes, for example, when there were roadworks or a broken down vehicle blocking the way. On the 25th of May 1950, flooding was the issue. An underpass near the intersection of State and 63rd Streets had become flooded. Because the motor of most streetcars on the network was situated very low in the chassis, even a relatively small amount of standing water was a problem.
Really?
City workers were called out to unblock drains and clear the flood, work that would take several hours. In the meantime, all streetcars would have to be diverted.
Okay, chat, pick a number
Chicago
1 to
Transit
100.
Authority
99.
employee Charles Climb was sent to
Or does it have to be
assist
chat?
with
Do I
his
count? I don't
His
want to poison
job
the
would be
well. I'm
to
so
stand
sorry.
beside the switch and signal to approaching streetcars to slow down. He would then be required to operate the switch and send them into the loop
69?
so that they could turn around. Climb did
69
his job
is a good
diligently,
number.
waving down and
I mean,
turning
it's
around
pretty nice.
streetcars as they arrived. The hours dragged on, so that he had turned around almost 200 streetcars by the time he got word that the flood was soon to be cleared. Another 15 minutes, and things would be back to normal. No doubt relieved, Climb returned to his post, ready to turn around the last
4
few
is my
streetcars of the
favorite
day.
one-digit number.
At around 6:30 p.m., a trolley approached.
I don't know. I
Climb
have like
waved for it to
very
slow down,
weird
but it did not.
attractions.
Surprised, Climb moved forward and waved again more urgently, but the streetcar
Bardic News
still
Spark
did
Cal.
slow down,
Captivating Jazero's
despite
gifted a
Climb's
T1
now
sub to Bardic
frantic
News.
gestures.
Thank
They
you
have
so
given
much.
35
Carried on
gift
at
subs in the
full
channel.
speed, straight past him.
That was really nice
Things
of you.
happened quickly after that. The streetcar ploughed into the turnaround loop at full speed.
Thank you
A
very
distinct
much.
buzzing sound reported by survivors indicated
was 70,
that the driver
nice.
applied the emergency brake at this point.
I just wanted to say
evidently
99
realizing his
because if
mistake.
you were like, I'm going to do
But it was
jumping
too late.
jacks or
The
something.
streetcar slammed into a gasoline
'Cause I'm
tanker that had
cruel, I
just
guess.
emerged from the flooded underpass.
Now I feel like an asshole.
massive
That is
explosion took
legitimately
place,
like what
with
I
a
was thinking,
fireball
and now I
blasting
feel
in
like a
through the front
jerk.
window of the streetcar.
Or
Fuel
I want you to
gushed from the
live
ruptured
forever.
tanker,
One or
forming
the
a
other.
pool around the wreck and quickly igniting. Within seconds, the whole scene was
Doxy
ablaze.
just wants to see me work out. Let's
On board the
just
Green
cut
Hornet,
all pretense
panic
that I'm
took
not
hold as
very
passengers
attracted to.
surged towards the back of the car in order to escape the flames. At this point, the actions of a 14-year-old girl were instrumental in saving several lives. Beverly
girl.
Clark was riding the streetcar alone, heading for the cinema to catch a movie. Immediately following the collision, she was thrown to the floor and then trampled by her fellow passengers as they
Jesus.
escaped towards the rear of the streetcar. Somehow, she managed to get to her feet and reach the center door, only to find it firmly sealed. Her efforts to force it open were hopeless, but after a moment she remembered that there was an emergency door release. Beverly knew how to find and operate the emergency release only because she had pulled it on several previous occasions as part of childhood pranks with her friends. These practice runs almost certainly saved her life. Reaching up, Beverly operated the release and the doors sprung open. She spilled out into the street and was followed by several incredibly lucky passengers before the spreading flames blocked the center doors once more.
That's so scary.
Meanwhile, at the rear of the car,
That is so
a pileup
fucking
was taking
scary.
place. The doors there opened inwards, and so no amount of pushing and kicking by frantic passengers inside the car would make them open. The conductor, a man named William Liddell, had been seated
Cows.
beside the doors when the collision took place. The impact had thrown him to the floor, where he was then trampled by other passengers. By the time he regained his footing, passengers were already congregating by the rear doors, attempting to force them open. Liddell shouted for the crowd to stand back and let the doors open. At the same time, he reached for the levers to release the doors. He knew full well that they would not open if people were applying pressure from the inside, and he wasn't sure
Right,
if his promise
Pondwater?
to
I have
stand clear of the
I
doors
have
were
the
being heeded.
airplane emergency
The interior of the
situations
car
on
was now
lock.
full of
That
smoke,
shit's
confusion, and
memorized.
noise.
Every bus I've ever been on,
Nonetheless, he
I
pulled the
know
levers and the doors
where every door
miraculously
is
sprang
and
open.
how they operate.
Little
Like, straight
and
up,
a
that
small
is
number of other
some of the best
passengers were
advice that you
able
can
to
give
escape.
is always read the
However,
emergency
the
instructions
crush
in
around
vehicles
the
you
doors
regularly
was
ride.
so
And if
intense
you don't
that
trust
it
every
soon forced them
motherfucker
closed
on
again.
that
The
public
remaining
transit,
passengers were
you get
left
as
with
close
few
to
other
that door as you
options.
possibly
They
can.
had only seconds left to escape. Using whatever came to hand, several broke windows and attempted to squeeze
That's your
through them.
life. Don't
They
gamble
were
with
largely
it.
thwarted by metal bars which had been installed across the windows. Ironically, these were safety bars.
Like, unless
designed to stop
unless you're like,
passengers
Des, take it
leaning
or leave
or
it, in which
reaching out
case,
of windows.
I'm not your dad, but
Nonetheless,
want to
a
live.
small number of people were also able to escape this way. One passenger, 18-year-old Arlene Franzen, recalled squeezing out through a painfully narrow gap and escaping onto a nearby green. When she turned around, she saw a co-worker of hers who happened to have been on the streetcar too, attempting to escape through the same window. As Arlene watched, her co-worker was overwhelmed by the flames and collapsed back into the car.
that's so sad.
Passers-by
Fuck,
rushed
that's so
to help
sad.
those few who could escape, but
I bet
most
that haunted
rescuers were
her for the
soon beaten
rest of
back
her
by the
life.
spreading flames. By the time firemen and other emergency personnel arrived on scene, there was nobody left alive on board the streetcar to save. The flames were so immense that the first firefighters on scene couldn't even determine that there was a streetcar in the midst of them. All in all, 34 people were killed in the crash and subsequent fire, the driver of the streetcar included. 50 people also sustained serious injuries. Before it could be extinguished, the fire spread to several nearby buildings, burning them irreparably and making more than 100 people homeless.
Oh shit.
It was the most deadly and damaging collision
God
ever
damn
to
it, I'm
have
bad at
taken place
everything.
involving just two vehicles. An investigation was launched into the disaster, and several key factors were identified. The performance of Charles Climb, the flagman who had been responsible for signalling to approaching streetcars to slow down at the turnaround loop, was called into question. It emerged that he had not been wearing all of his uniform and had not carried the flags and signal flares usually used for this task. He had also engaged in a forbidden but tolerated practice known as plugging the switch. Essentially, jamming the switch so that it was constantly open, rather than opening it and closing it for every streetcar that passed.
That's so fucked up.
Climb's actions
Kettle,
were,
thanks for
however,
looking out for
just
me. I'm
one
sorry that I didn't
aspect of
bring
the
my water
disaster.
up.
The design
Like a
of the
loser.
Green Hornet also came in for some criticism. The doors that would only open inwards, the bars across the windows, the fact that there were exit doors on only one side, and the lack of easily accessible emergency door releases had all
That
made
all
escape
sounds
from the
like a
burning
bus.
streetcar next to impossible for the victims of the accident.
All of that sounds like a bus.
Additionally, it was discovered that streetcars weren't routinely subject to the same speed limits as other road users, and that the driver of the fateful trolley had been involved in 10 minor accidents during his career, but had never had his fitness to drive questioned or checked. Finally, the rules concerning
12,
the haulage
13,
of gas through the
14,
city of
15,
Chicago
16,
were examined.
17.
Other cities made deliveries at night or enforced a mandatory maximum on the amount of gasoline that could be hauled along certain routes.
Really?
Chicago
That's
had
silly.
few rules of this type.
18,
Following the recommendations of the inquest,
19. Then
some
again, what do I
changes were
know?
made.
Like, I didn't go to school for this kind of
Speed
thing.
limits
I don't know
for
what the
streetcars
studies.
were enforced, and easily accessible emergency
detail.
door releases were installed on all exits to all
Show.
streetcars.
I don't know what word to use there.
Bars were removed from
Reveal?
some windows, and removable window frames were added to others. It was recommended that flagmen be given new,
It's still
highly
hydration.
visible
Yeah.
uniforms, and that drivers be required to pass a routine medical exam to ensure that they were fit and well. These changes were just some
Okay,
of
well
those
that's a
recommended
little
by
weird
the
and
inquest.
ableist, though.
More might have been done, but for the fact that the era of streetcars was coming to an end. In the years following the accident, Green Hornets began to disappear from the streets of Chicago, replaced by cheaper and more efficient motor buses. By 1955, almost the entire fleet had been decommissioned. With the disappearance of the Green Hornets, the horror of the accident faded from the minds of the public. Today, the Green Hornet streetcar crash is a barely remembered part of Chicago's long
Bardic
history.
Muse? What?
The intersection where the collision took place is unmarked and unremarkable. Thousands pass through this junction every day, inside safe, modern motor vehicles, unaware entirely that they are passing the site of the worst public transit disaster in Chicago history.
That's a really good end to this video. SCOTUS has drafted opinion overriding Roe v. Wade. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. It's scary times. This is why we can never let Republicans lead. Ever. They're hypocrites. They fucking, like, literally just bad. They're just bad. They deny science. They're awful. They're backwards thinking. Like, just no more conservatives in the United States, ever. I don't care. Like, none.
On the 30th of December, 1903, a fire began on the stage at the newly built Iroquois Theatre in Chicago, Illinois. Advertisements for the theatre had boasted that it was absolutely fireproof, but it was far from it. Indeed, the design of the theatre building led to a death toll that outstripped that of any single building fire in all of American history, and led to changes to the design of mass occupancy buildings that are still in place
They literally
today.
want to slam their ears and eyes shut
Construction
to
of the Iroquois
facts.
Theatre was completed just a few weeks before the fire, with the
And
venue
then, like,
opening on the 23rd
I just can't.
of
I just
November
can't.
1903. The building was a grand edifice, fitted out with marble staircases,
I can't talk about it too
soaring
long because
ceilings,
it's just
and
it's
huge
depressing,
amounts of
it's
polished
sad,
mahogany trim.
and it's
Critics
scary.
went so
Like,
far
the
as to
United
call
States,
the
I don't know
building
what
a
is fucking
temple of
happening down there,
beauty,
but I'm so
and to state
happy
that
I'm in the
no other
process of
theatre
getting
could
out.
match the architectural perfection
It cannot
of the
be
Iroquois.
official soon enough.
But the building wasn't perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination. The fire safety standards of the day were far more lax than they are now.
I'm so worried
But even
for
so, the building didn't
just
come
everybody
close to meeting them.
there.
Workers had gone on strike during construction, and so the owners had to push for the build to be completed on time. Certain luxuries were left aside, to be added at a later date. Fire alarms, a sprinkler system, and emergency telephones among them. At the same time as
Yeah,
corners
same,
were
Wrath.
being
Also,
cut
hi, it's
for
good to see you.
expediency,
Good night, Hacks
the
Matt.
architect was also fine-tuning the design. Lighted exit signs just didn't fit the decor, and so they were scrapped too. The vast majority of patrons, few of whom were likely to read the criticisms of the venue in Fireproof magazine, were largely unaware of any issues. They flocked to the Iroquois Theatre. Seating was offered on 3
The
levels,
beating heart
with a
is so
corresponding
fucking
tiered
dope.
pricing
Holy
system.
shit. I
The
know what's
cheapest
happening. I
seats
accidentally
were
closed
way
the
up
screen, but I
high
saw
in the
Roe v.
gallery,
Wade, and I have
far
a
from the
Planned
action
Parenthood
and
2 miles from
accessible
me, and
only
it's sad
via
that
a
it's completely
complicated
gated with
series
this
of
insane
narrow
fence. Yeah, it's
staircases and landings.
terrifying what has
Those
become
who
of
could
the United
afford a
States.
little
It's
more
like
might plump for seats
literally
in the dress circle, which was accessed via the
just
sweeping marble
speed
staircase
running
in the foyer,
fascism right now.
or
I
in the
don't
ground floor
know
orchestra seating
how
area, which was up
sane
close and
people are
personal to the
allowing this to
action on
happen.
stage.
I don't know how so many people have
Of
become
course, gates were
brainwashed.
installed between each level,
But
and
they have,
locked
like,
during
half-
performances to prevent patrons
half
in
of the
cheap seats from
Republicans,
sneaking
you
down
guys,
and
half
taking
of them
open spots in the more expensive tiers.
Believe 4chan
Even without the
conspiracies
gates,
as fact.
theatergoers attending the 30th
Half of them
December
believe that.
matinee
We have
wouldn't been
somebody
able to sneak a seat.
serving in
The
office
place was sold
that
out.
believes in Jewish
The Iroquois
space
had a capacity
lasers.
of around 1,600
That's
persons.
real.
But that evening,
Marjorie
it welcomed
Taylor
more than
Greene.
2,000. So full was the venue that many patrons had to make do with a seat in the aisle, even if it did block access for others. The afternoon's show was a performance of the musical Mr. Bluebeard. This was a family-friendly
Rosa,
production
it's so
based
fucking
on a French fairy tale and had
scary.
received rave reviews from critics.
I just don't have time.
With school
I just
out,
don't have fucking
many
time
of the patrons packing the Iroquois beyond capacity were children and
for
their
people
mothers.
like that in my life.
At around 3:15 p.m., as the stage lights were dimmed for a night scene,
We get one
spotlight
earthly
arced
fucking life.
and set fire
It is
to the
our
top portion
job
of a stage
to spread
curtain.
love and joy as far and wide
This
as we
tiny
possibly
flame was
fucking
visible
can
to
for
the
everybody
audience,
else.
but innocuous
The
enough
minute you
for
start
most
thinking,
people
what
to
about
write it
me?
off as an intentional special effect.
As opposed
Just
to what
another
about
bit of
everybody?
theatre. Behind the scenes, however, ushers were frantically trying to extinguish
Like, of
the
course,
flame.
look out for yourself, but once your needs are
They
met,
attempted to do this
you make sure that
using
everybody
the
else
only
is
firefighting equipment in the building.
taken
few
care of
small
too
cans of
before we
kill
start
fire,
thinking about extras.
A fire extinguishing
fucking
powder
insane.
that was really only intended for
Funny how the
damping
same
down
generation that spent all their
domestic
time telling us not to
fireplaces.
believe everything we read on the internet has
The
been
powder just
infected by
floated
recycled
down to
4chan
the
bullshit. It's
stage,
insane.
achieving
It's
nothing.
fucking not okay.
Similarly, when they tried to beat the flames
Allowing
out
the
with
U.S. government
poles,
hasn't been a real
they only
democracy for
succeeded
decades. We
in
don't have an actual
showering the
say in our own
stage with
governance. You're not
flaming
wrong.
debris.
It's been an oligarchy for so long at
The
this
stage
point that
manager
like
tried to lower
Reagan
the
just
fire
ruined
curtain,
everything,
which would
didn't he?
separate the fire
He just
on
ruined
stage from the
fucking
audience
everything.
and buy time for an orderly evacuation.
for his own
Halfway
personal
down,
gain.
the curtain hit a light reflector and jammed. No good. The flames climbed up into the area above
Everybody's
the stage,
so
took
fucked.
hold of the highly flammable
Just
oil
humans are
painted
just
canvas backdrops
fucked.
that were suspended there, and blew.
Oh, and we deserve it.
Smoke billowed into the auditorium.
Ronald Reagan was
and a
the devil,
panic
like
began.
100%.
At this point, comic actor Eddie Foy, who was backstage, sensed impending disaster. His own child was in the audience, and he quickly ordered a stagehand to grab the boy and get out.
I don't know how thoroughly
He
it
then
needs to be
ran out
proven
onto
that
the
trickle-down
stage.
economics
There,
does not work.
even as flaming bits of
But,
canvas fell all around him, he appealed
I'd say
for
looking
calm.
around right about now,
He
it's pretty
encouraged the
obvious,
orchestra
hey?
to play, to
Hi, Kool-Aid, how
reassure
are
the
you?
crowd, and reminded
Still
them
wondering
that
how the hippies
theatre
turned into
was,
this,
as
right?
the marketing materials claimed, absolutely
All
fireproof.
those drugs damaged their brains,
No
man.
sooner had he said this than a blazing swath of scenery crashed
Right,
down
Darla?
onto the
Yeah, no,
stage,
I'm with you.
sending the
I'm
other
with you.
actors
Like,
fleeing in panic.
the fact
Some
that
of them
civil
with their
rights
costumes
could possibly
aflame.
be moving backwards
The
is
brief
just...
moment of calm was over.
It's unfathomable
Chaos
to
ensued.
me.
Crushes quickly formed around exit doors.
Sadly, these people
some
have
of which
always
the
been around.
audience
Just a
simply
former
couldn't
Cheeto in
open
office just made
because
them
of
come out of the woodwork.
unfamiliar
I
mechanisms.
feel like
Escape was
I feel
blocked
like
in
he's
the
a symptom
gallery by
and the
those
problem.
iron
I think
gates
that there's
designed to stop patrons
there's
sneaking more expensive seats.
healthy
Elsewhere, people crowded
blame
around
on
ornamental
him
windows that
for
looked like doors,
a lot of
but
people
which couldn't
being
be
sick of
opened.
seeing,
Patrons from
honest
the
to
upper
goodness,
levels
the
poured
actual
out onto
swamp that
fire
is
escapes,
DC.
only to find
Like, he
them
was
narrow,
right that it's a
icy,
swamp.
and
He
in
was
some
just wrong
cases
about who he was
unfinished.
attacking in it. It's,
Many fell to their deaths while trying to descend, with those who fell later
I don't know. I'm too
standing
depressed to
a
talk
greater
about
chance
this.
of
I don't want to
survival,
talk about this.
as the bodies
Let's
below
talk about
would break
so,
their fall.
these wonderful, entertaining
Witnessing
things
the
like
developing
fires
crushes
and
believing the claims that the
stampedes.
theatre was fireproof, many chose to stay seated rather than risk being trampled to death. Within minutes, however, the flames on the stage had built to an inferno.
Yes, music to my ears.
As exit doors elsewhere in the building were opened, air flooded in, feeding the flames. A fireball rippled through the auditorium.
It is a little
destroying
weird that,
everything
like,
and
we
everyone
like to
in
get
its
our
path.
release from the real world by watching
The lack of
true
a working
crime.
alarm system in the building
Shit
and
like
the lack
that.
of emergency telephones.
Unfinished fire
meant that the
escapes, I
fire
am without
service
words,
was
yeah.
only alerted
No
when an
building should
usher
ever
ran
be in
from the
use
Iroquois to a
without
fire alarm
finished
box on the
fire
next
escapes.
street.
Welcome back, Your Highness.
By the time fire crews were in attendance, it was too late for many of the victims. For some others, though, luck was on their side.
No, none of you. I'm not mad at any of
Passers-by
you.
outside the
Please,
building
don't,
were
if
miraculously
and y'all
well
can feel
equipped
free to
help.
continue discussing
One
in
door, for
in the
example,
Discord if
became
you want.
almost instantly jammed
But
until a passing railway worker, who
I just don't
happened
feel
to
like
have
it
his tools
right
with
now.
him at
I
the
just
time,
don't feel like
was
being
able to
outraged
remove
right
the
now.
hinges and allow
I'm
dozens
so
of
sick of
victims to
spending all
escape.
of my time outraged, you know?
Elsewhere, builders scrambled up scaffolding and extended ladders across
4,
to the
8,
people
12,
trapped on the fire
16.
escapes,
Except for
allowing
these are
several
3.
to crawl
3,
across
6,
to
9,
safety.
15.
Rescue efforts were, in the end, grimly brief.
It's 3, 6, 9, 12.
The building was so well sealed that the fire had practically burned itself out
Oh.
by the time firefighters were able
Help
to gain
me.
access through doors blocked by piles
Help
of
me,
bodies.
everyone.
All in all, 573 people lost their lives in the fire, with a further 30 perishing from injuries sustained
Learn
during
to
the blaze.
chillax. Yo, it's so hard.
The appalling news
The
of
reason,
the
Kool-Aid,
fire
that we're
filled
talking
the
about it
front
right now is
pages
because
for
Roe v.
months,
Wade might be
fueled by a number
getting
of maddening
overturned.
revelations.
Like, it's closer to a
The fire
possibility
curtain,
now than it has
turned
been
out,
since
was
it's been
made of
instated.
wood pulp.
And it's just, it's
Even if
really
it had been
scary,
successfully
unprecedented,
lowered,
backwards
it
ass
wouldn't have
times
helped.
for something like that to
No
happen.
fire drill had ever been conducted, and there were allegations that fire
It's funny
safety
because me and
officials
Josiah
had
were
been
talking
bribed
about this
with the
today
promise
about
of free tickets
just how
if they let all this slide.
unrespected, how
Vents in the
disrespected
roof,
women are
which should have prevented a fireball
in
by
the medical
acting as a
field,
chimney
because
for
we're
the
talking
fire,
about what we're
were
going to
found
do
to
about
have
like
been
birth
wired
control,
or
right?
nailed shut.
And there's just like fucking
Although
nothing
reports were clear
to
that theatre owners,
disable
managers,
sperm,
and floor staff
but
were
we're
culpable,
expected to like
nobody involved ever faced any
implant
penalties.
things into our bodies
Defendants
or
dragged
fuck
out
around with all of our
proceedings for year
hormones.
after year
It's
until
nuts.
The case
Like,
finally
literally the
collapsed.
reason that we're having this discussion is because I'm scared
Public
that I'm going to
outrage,
start
however,
getting blood
and
clots.
a genuine desire to avoid another catastrophe like the Iroquois
Also, like, we
Theatre
could
fire
use condoms.
led
Like,
to
I
several
mean, that's
swift
just
changes.
true.
The practice of overselling theatres was cracked down on, and the disaster also saw the adoption of outward
But like,
opening
I
panic
like
bar
enjoying
doors in
sex
most
with my
theatres.
partner. You know what I mean?
The panic bar was
Disable
something that
sperm
had been
would also be a
invented
good band
many
name.
years before,
Absolutely.
following the Victoria Hall disaster in England, but which hadn't at the time been widely adopted.
Nice
in
and fun
America.
regression, yeah.
Eddie Foy, who had escaped
We
the
love a
fire along with
regression in
his
the
son,
United States.
was hailed as
We
a
love
hero,
moving backwards
even though his appeal for calm
for
hadn't entirely
marginalized
succeeded.
people in
He went
specific.
on to have a long and successful career.
3,
The
6,
Iroquois
9,
Theatre, on the other hand, had
12,
been gutted
15,
by the fire.
18. Okay.
The exterior remained
Y'all,
relatively
I
intact,
can count.
and so after
I
much
can do it.
interior
I do it
reconstruction,
all the time.
it was opened as the Colonial Theatre.
You heard about
which
male birth
operated
control
without
pills
incident
recently?
until 1925,
Josiah
when
was
it
looking around at
demolished
stuff
and
that
replaced by the
is
Oriental,
available. Right
known
now we're
today
like
as
in
the
the
James M.
testing it on
Nederlander
monkeys
Theatre.
phase for both shots
Though the
and
Iroquois
male birth
Theatre
control
existed
pills,
for just
but
a few
we
short
aren't
weeks
there
before
yet.
it was destroyed. Its
How the
legacy
fuck?
is visible
Where are
to
you
this day
counting?
in the Nederlander
It's hard.
and in every theatre across
It's very
the country.
hard.
Exit signs, fire doors, safety curtains. These things, now just an ordinary part of the everyday world, were not always so commonplace.
Some people, me, can't use condoms. I'm allergic to latex. Ask me how I found out. Oh no. I hope it's because you were practicing a safe hand job. Oof. Oof. Then again, hands are slow to heal, and mouths and vaginas are pretty quick to heal. I think it is time for us to take a quick commercial break, everybody. Everybody, make sure that you get up and touch your toes if you can. Get yourself a glass of water. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get some water really quick. And then really quick, chop them off to be safe. I love you so fucking much, dude. Okay. Really quick, there's something that I want to talk to you guys about. It's like a big deal to me. Josiah recently got a copyright strike on his channel. Not a warning, a strike, like the big bad. And that he has seen an incredible amount of success. He started to explode, and then it turns out that one of the pieces of art that he used in his false Hydra video, the video that was the catalyst for all of this growth, he grabbed it from a source that he thought was all public domain art, And the piece of art that he happened to grab was not public domain. And the artist issued a copyright strike on his channel, which means that he lost all the progress that he had made on that video, that he is getting worse ads run on his channel, that like his stats are all going to suffer, and YouTube, like it's fucking with the algorithm. The algorithm thinks that he's a bad creator instead of a good creator now. If I could get you guys to watch his new False Hydra video, that would mean everything to us. It's about 30 minutes long. It's really good. He's come a long way editing. He's a genius. Like, genuinely, his edits are so fun and funny. I would love so much if you guys could just help us out and do that. It would be the biggest favor. It's free for you. I would love so much if you guys could do that. And we will be back. Where do I go? Just search Dungeon Dad False Hydra on YouTube. It would mean everything to me and to him. The thing that sucks about it is that artist doesn't get anything out of doing the copyright strike. We tried emailing her respectfully and apologetically, because we know, he wrongly used her art, and like that's her art and she worked hard on it, and like we definitely understand her not wanting that to just be used for free in a video. But she just is not answering us and not removing the strike, and he just doesn't get to accomplish the success that he was accomplishing, that he deserves to accomplish, because he had to take that video down. So he had to re-upload it, and now all the stats on it are really bad, and the algorithm is just like, oh, okay, maybe you don't deserve to explode and become a full-time YouTuber. It's a bummer. So it would mean everything. It's such a cool video. You guys will love it. Anyway, can you link it in the Discord? If I could get somebody else to link it in the Discord so that I don't have access to my keyboard. I'm so sorry. I didn't think about having it open because I'm a fucker. But if I could get one of my mods perhaps to link it in the Discord, that would be so sick. I would appreciate it a whole lot. I really got to go pee. I'm going to go get my water. I owe you guys like 4 hydrates. I'll be right back. Chat room, I'm so sorry about the extended break there. I was just talking to Josiah about the Roe v. Wade thing. I really appreciate y'all getting that link out for me. Thank you so much. For those of you that have already watched it, there's new fun surprises in there. All right. Okay. This video is fucking awesome, by the way. He's an amazing content creator. He's so talented. He's very funny and very informed. And also, look at him. Look at how beautiful. Whew. I get to kiss that guy.
You guys talking about Link?
What?
You guys talking about Link?
Yeah, we are. Babe almost threw a bread heel at me. Stop. We gotta get him some soundproofing. He desperately wants to. Legit, all of you that aren't subscribed to him just should do that right now. His videos are phenomenal. Like, I highly encourage you to go on a Dungeon Dad binge after stream tonight. With like, we're gonna be ending in like an hour or less. Go watch Dungeon Dad content. It's fucking phenomenal. Yeah, he's very, very well researched. I feel like he's missing a certain something for me, a certain pair of something. No, they're in his shorts. I'm super kidding. I get it. But you can still admit that that's a beautiful man, though, right? Like, even if you're batting on a different team. I'm sorry he doesn't do it naked, Barry. God. Ugh. I don't know why I looked at Twitter. I don't know why I still follow Ben Shapiro, but that all culminated in a fucking disgusting moment just now. Ugh. I hate him. Well, maybe if he did, YouTube would. Actually, YouTube hates that kind of thing. Yeah. Can I get 3 readies in chat, y'all? I ding dang love you guys. Thank you for being wonderful. You guys are amazing, truly. Thank you so much. Cool. I've lost my cursor. Give me a moment. Golly. Okay, it's back. All right, here we go. The Italian Hall disaster. Let's go.
On the 24th of December, 1913, in the town of Calumet in Michigan, employees of a copper mining company were enjoying a Christmas party at a community hall.
Oh, hey, welcome back, Quinn.
At some point in
How are ya?
proceedings, a loud cry was heard. Fire. The crowd rushed to escape down a single narrow staircase, but there simply wasn't room for everyone to evacuate at once. In the panic and confusion which followed, many of those in attendance would lose their lives. 1913 was a tense year for the residents of Calumet. Many of them worked for the Calumet and Heckler Mining Company, a huge and very successful firm which specialized in the extraction and processing of copper ore from mines in the copper-rich Upper Peninsula of Michigan. In some ways, the Calumet and Heckler Mining Company was a very good employer. It provided housing
Quinn, did you
and
change
other
your name?
facilities for its workers.
I didn't notice it at all, and
including
I'm like
libraries,
actually friends with that.
bathhouses, and leisure facilities such as bowling alleys and clubhouses. It started a voluntary fund to take care of ill and injured workers, and matched employee
What am I doing?
contributions
I don't
to this
need to
fund.
count the shells right
Something that
now.
was
What the
almost
fuck is my
unheard
problem?
of at the
I have
time.
not smoked today.
Not
What is
only
my
this,
problem?
But it poured money
Quiet
into
night
the
at the
local
escape room.
economy,
I have a booking in 50
funding
minutes
the
and another
construction
booking
of
half an hour
schools
after
and
that, so I'll
churches
have to
for the
run 2
benefit
games
of the entire
simultaneously, which
community.
sucks. Ugh, I'm sorry to hear that.
This was all a good investment for the Calumet and Heckler Mining Company. By taking
You
care
haven't
of
changed
their
anything?
workers to a standard much
Kool-Aid.
higher than any other mining company, they easily
Kool-Aid.
attracted the best workers. And these workers remained incredibly loyal to the company. At the same time, though, not everyone was happy with this arrangement. By providing everything for its employees,
That's
the
how it's
Calumet and Hecla Mining
pronounced.
Company exercised a massive degree of control over their lives. Since the mining company controlled the whole town, bad behavior such as drunkenness or brawling could cost a worker their job, even when it happened outside of working hours. Losing their job would also mean losing their home, their church, and their children's schooling. Not an ideal arrangement. Compounding this was the fact that the Calumet and Hecla Mining Company, like every other mining company, was resistant.
Yeah,
to the
Bardic Muse,
idea
I
of a
feel like I
minimum
am the same way.
wage,
I am
and
not a
by
very athletic
1913
person.
had begun
I'm in
pushing some of
fact
its
very,
workers to work
very
alone in dangerous conditions.
clumsy. And
Attitudes
slow.
to the Calumet and Hecla Mining
And
Company
out of shape.
among the workers were
We went on
mixed.
a walk on the
And
walking
so,
trail
when the
today,
Western
and I
Federation
got
of Miners,
winded.
a union of mine workers, called for a strike in July of 1913. It divided the town.
I'm really lucky
Some
enough to
workers were
have
strongly
a
in favour of
small
a strike,
enough body
while
that
others
like
very much wanted to go
it
back
adapts
to work.
really easily if I
After
just
some
like
time,
go
the
ham.
National Guard was brought in. Although the strike was allowed to continue,
So if I just
those who
focus for
wanted
like
to
2
work were
weeks,
able to
I'll
do
be
so
in way
under
better
their
shape,
protection.
like markedly.
It wasn't an ideal solution, and tensions were
It's just that I've got to
certainly high,
do it. I
but it
need to
allowed
fucking
the
get
mine to
past the
continue
depression and not listen
For
to it when it
5
says no,
long
just
months,
stay in
the
bed and
strike dragged
crochet.
on.
You know?
By the time Christmas
Or
rolled
like
around,
just stay in
many
bed
of
and
the
literally
strikers
just
were
watch
hurting.
Ghost Adventures and
With
do
no
nothing
money
else.
coming in, they couldn't afford to buy their children Christmas presents, and were badly in need of a morale boost. To provide just that, the Western Federation of Miners booked out the Italian Hall in Calumet.
I am a very,
and
very,
laid on an
very
evening
short
of food,
person.
drink, and entertainment for the striking
I know I
workers.
didn't misread his name to be the proper
The Italian
pronunciation.
Hall
I'm just
was a
also
sort
someone
of
with garbage
community centre
memory.
for the town of Calumet.
I don't know, Kool-Aid.
This two-story structure had a space
Did
for
you
shops
come in
and a
from the other
saloon on the
timeline
ground
just
floor,
now?
and a large meeting hall on the top floor.
Did you
It was
just
in this
dimension
large
shift?
hall that the party would take place, with more than 600 people, many of them children, congregating
We
there
found
over the
Kika's
course of
leash
the
in our
evening.
drawer today, in our like
Even to this
utensil
day,
drawer
nobody knows
today.
who shouted the word fire. But at some point in the night, this cry was heard, loud and clear. It cut through the music and the chatter, causing an instant panic. And no wonder
So I think I did too.
the Iroquois theatre fire
Toxie
and
is
its
so short I
horrifying
can trip
death
over her.
toll
I'm
was
very,
still
very
fresh in the memories of many
tiny.
of those in attendance.
Reth is very tall,
Fearful
to
of
be
a similar
fair.
tragedy,
Reth is
guests
very tall.
surged towards the only easily accessible exit, a narrow staircase that led
He also
down to
did
the
not
street
even do the
outside.
herc noise when he picked me up, and
Had
it
they
made me
been
feel
more
very
familiar
small.
with the building, they might have escaped using another route. There was an
3, 6,
additional
9,
fire
12,
exit,
15,
but it
16.
wasn't clearly signposted
Wait.
and had to be accessed through the kitchen.
That
Several
shouldn't
of the
be
windows were
real.
also fitted with ladders to allow people to escape in an emergency, but these were of little use.
It was the
The
Karen
panicking
Steve.
partygoers simply didn't know the ladders were there. Some people survived by jumping from the
And
windows,
everybody said, okay,
or by
Baron,
staying put in the hall despite the panic surrounding them. These were the
for
lucky
pushy
ones.
white bitches.
Those who tried to escape via the main staircase were caught almost instantly.
Which
in
cat
a
was
deadly
sick? Are they
human
okay now?
crush.
It's Kika. He might actually
Passers-by
have
outside were drawn
cancer.
by the
We don't
shouts and
know.
screams
Like
of
the
those
treatment
trapped on the
for cancer
staircase,
is the same
and
as if it's
arrived
just
to find it
IBS.
jammed floor to
And
ceiling with
finding out
bodies.
which is which, he only
Many
has
of
like a
them children.
50-50 shot of waking up from that
Though
exploratory
they pulled
surgery
out
because he's
anyone they
old and
could,
sick.
many
We
were
just have to
already
keep him on
beyond
medicine, and he
rescue.
might have a couple years
By the time it
with
was
us.
realized that there
Unless
was
it's
no
cancer,
fire,
we just have to
dozens
wait
had
and
been
see.
crushed and suffocated.
It's devastating
panic
to me.
subsided in
It's
mere
awful.
minutes.
It's aging me.
But the damage
Also, Art
was
Scrat.
already done.
Hi.
The
It is
dead
so
were
good to
dragged
see
out
you.
of the
How are
stairwell,
you?
one by one, and taken to the town hall, where they were lined up for identification. Every physician in town was brought to the scene to do the best they could to help the
Just
injured.
love him to bits regardless. That's
In
every
total,
time he wants
73 people
attention,
lost their
I
lives.
drop whatever I'm doing and I give
59
him
of
my
them children.
undivided attention.
It was one of the worst
So
mining-related
SPU last night and got home
disasters ever
stupid
to
late,
hit
then
the
had to
region.
work both my jobs
And
today
it
for like a
happened
14-hour
above
day, and the
ground,
MTG group I
mainly
mod has been
affecting
a
the
headache
wives
because
and
of a
children
pride
of mine workers.
thing
In the
that
aftermath of the
Wizard of the
disaster,
Coast is doing, and I've
tensions
been
were
having to stomp
extremely
out
high.
bigots and
The
well-meaning
question
bullies.
arose,
Oh no.
who was to blame? For days and weeks, rumors
That I
circulated.
have that problem. I become a
Some
bully
people
when
thought that
people
a
are
drunk
like,
from the saloon below the hall was to blame.
when somebody's a bigot,
while many
I
others
bully
were
them.
adamant that they had seen the man who
Legitimately,
shouted fire,
Tommy
and that
Loren.
he had been wearing
Tommy
an
Loren the other
anti-union
day
pin.
tweeted
Suspicion
that
fell on the
liberals
Calumet
are
and
now
Hecla
eating
mining
some
company
mixture
itself,
of gross
but
foods to
also
make
on a
themselves
separate
sick
anti-union
on
body
Republican
known as
speakers
the
or whatever. And I
Citizens
just
Alliance.
replied, actually, Tommy, I think
So
you
great
just make
was the
people
ill
sick.
feeling
And that
towards
was
the
the
Citizens
that was the
Alliance,
most
in fact,
fire bullying
that
I've
the
ever
relatives of
done.
victims turned down $25,000
Sorry, that was heartless of me
in
to ask.
aid
No,
raised by the
no.
organization.
I'm
And
sorry,
the
Quinn, that
leader
you're
of the
having such a
Western
rough
Federation
day.
of Miners openly accused them of being
I would like to
responsible
give
for
you
causing the
several
disaster.
tiny hugs.
In a development that highlights just how inflamed tensions were, this resulted in members of the Citizens
You can rest your
Alliance
head right here
shooting
for
the
a
leader of the
second if you
Western
need
Federation
to.
of Miners and forcing him,
You
wounded
just have to
and
get here
bleeding,
first.
onto a train out of the
Sorry.
state. Elsewhere, there was an ongoing furore as newspapers printed headlines calling the deaths murders.
Been busy with college and
Accusations
sitting
flew
for
back and
work, but I
forth,
got a few
with different
promotions
papers
and I am
printing wildly
nationally
different
certified
stories
to work
and differing
anywhere, so
accounts
big
of
hype.
events.
That is big hype. I'm so happy for
Ultimately,
you.
It was never found out who was responsible
Art Scratch,
for
shit's
that
been
first
rough, but
deadly
we're
shout of fire. While most of those
we're
involved
doing what
were
we can.
convinced that it was related to the strike, there is also a small possibility that it was a genuine error, that someone at the gathering really thought there was a fire. That aside, it may have been intended as an ill-advised joke, or a way of causing some minor disruption. The reason behind this senseless tragedy has been lost to history. In the shadow of
This
such
yarn
an
sticks
enormous
to my skin
disaster,
so
the strike
bad.
didn't last much longer.
Ugh.
In April of 1914, it came to an end.
I'm
and the striking workers
I'm
returned to the
glistening
mine,
a teeny bit.
with many of them having to tear up their Western Federation of Miners
Is it
membership
Art Scratch? Is
cards
it
in
okay for
front
me
of
to
mine
ask?
bosses
Please don't feel
before they were
obligated to
allowed do
answer.
so. Although the strike didn't succeed, it also wasn't a complete
What
loss,
is your
as
certification
it did
in?
pave the way for more successful
That's mild enough. I wouldn't do
unionization
anything
in
about
the
it. I'm
future.
talking legit death and rape threats
The Italian Hall
against people saying
remained
technically
standing,
bigoted
although
but
it fell
somewhat
into
innocuous things
disrepair
like I
after some
wish
time and was
politics were
eventually
kept
demolished
out of
in 1984.
Magic the Gathering, I imagine.
One feature was retained, the doorway through which so many had tried to escape. It now forms
This
part
card
of a
game,
small
so it's
park,
annoying having to
a
mod that,
quiet
yeah.
and contemplative place which houses a memorial.
No, I do
marked with
really
the
hate
names
when
of
people
those who
go
died.
overboard. I really hate
The
when people
Italian
are
Hall
like
disaster
when
is
somebody's
one
like,
of
I don't
several
understand much
incidents
about
which
it, so I don't
illustrate
have an
a
opinion.
principle
And
that
another
is
person will
commonly
jump in and be
used
like,
even
yeah, that's
today.
because you're racist
The idea
or
that free
whatever.
speech does
Like
not
it's
extend
just like, yo,
to shouting
chill. Like
fire
don't be an
in a
asshole and
crowded
expect
theatre.
people to want to be like you, dude.
Whatever the
It doesn't work.
intention of the person who did just
A
this
pharmacy
in
tech, that's
December of
so rad.
1913, the
An
Italian Hall
immunizing
disaster
tech so you can
is
give
a vivid
vaccinations
illustration
too.
of just
That
how
is so
dangerous
fucking
panic
dope.
can be.
Thank you so much for like putting your time into doing something that noble. That's really rad, and it's such a thankless job, and like huge props to you. Out of my fantasy games full of things to make people enjoy imagination. I mean, there's a hefty amount of politics in the D&D/wizard, like just the Wizards canon. There is so much politics in it, so crazy.
On the 28th of
Quinn, that's
November,
rough that you have to fucking deal with it.
2008,
Rape threats
crowds
are
began to
exhausting. As
gather
somebody who
outside
gets
the
them,
Walmart at the Green Acres
it is
Mall in Valley
exhausting.
Stream, New York. They had been drawn there by the promise of an unmissable, limited-time Black Friday sale. As dawn approached, the crowd grew and grew until it contained more than 2,000 people.
Turns out that you
They were
can't
there to
shame
shop,
people into
but
agreeing
before the
with you.
morning
It's
was
just
over, the
dumb, and
crowd
I have
would
to
have
decide whether to
destroyed a
side with the
storefront,
cordial
killed an
bigot
innocent
or the
man,
person acting
and
like a
contributed
jackass.
to
Yeah,
the
it's
long
such a
and violent
fucking
history of
bummer.
chaotic Black Friday sales.
Nerd boys can be the worst,
Black
yeah.
Friday is the name given to the Friday after Thanksgiving in the United States. For many
Yeah,
decades now,
I
it has
try
been
for silver.
traditional
It always
for
turns
retailers to run
yellow.
limited-time post-Thanksgiving
But
sales,
it's mostly
and
I
for
still
consumers to
mostly
turn
have.
out in force to take advantage of.
I still mostly have the
It's a big
dark
day for
brown. It's just
retailers,
like my
with
silver.
more than $150 billion spent
yellow
across the US in just a single
There's
weekend.
supposed to be like a
Even
silvery
now, with
white.
most shopping taking
like
place
Daenerys
online,
Targaryen
retailers
shit.
still work hard to
Well,
get
really,
shoppers
the
into
inspiration
stores
is
by
Rogue
advertising
from
incredible
X-Men.
deals or releasing desirable products.
My
like
mod
new
secret
game
is punish
consoles
both.
or
Hell yeah.
limited edition sneakers.
Thankfully, I'm
on
on a
Black
mod
Friday
min team
itself.
that has
There is a
as little
significant
patience as me,
history
so
of
we can
these
just mute
promotions
idiots until
ending
they
in
calm down and
unrest,
boot them if that's not
injury,
enough.
and
I-
even
that's
death.
wise. I think
What
that that's
happened
the
at the Valley
wise
Stream
way to do
Walmart
it. And
in
also, like,
2008 is
it's
one
not
of
up
the
to me.
most
I'm not the
unsettling
mod
examples
there,
of
but
this.
like, I feel like that's
On that
the
particular
correct
Black
way to
Friday,
lead,
crowds had been gathering
right?
all night, with the first shoppers arriving as early
Kelsey,
as
you trying to be
9
my
p.m.
Gambit?
the night before. These hardy bargain hunters camped out overnight in order to be the first in line when Walmart opened its doors at 5 a.m. They weren't few in number. By midnight, the sidewalk outside the doors was full, and a line of shoppers stretched across the car park of the Green Acres Mall. Given the size of the crowd, police were called at around 3:30 a.m. and attended to speak to the crowd through loudhailers, appealing for calm and order. Relatively few officers were still present as 5 a.m. approached, and the crowd was certainly not calm. They pounded on the closed glass doors and pressed in a mass against
I
them,
wish we'd get
causing
new
them to
X-Men
bow
shit.
visibly inwards.
Don't wish
The
that.
employees within the
They're
Walmart
too
were, quite
superhero
naturally,
movie happy
wary.
as it is,
Many of
and
them had
they've
witnessed
never
Black Friday
been able to
chaos
do
in
them. Just
previous
the only
years.
good thing they've
They
ever
had seen
done
people, including
for
children,
X-Men
tripping and falling during
ever
crowd surges, fights breaking
is
out,
cast Sir
and
Patrick
shoppers
Stewart,
arguing and brawling over items.
Ian McKellen, and
34-year-old Jimitai Damore had probably heard some stories from his co-workers,
his name
but
is
had
not
no
Hugh
idea
Grant.
just how
Hugh
intense the
Jackman.
crowds could become. He was a temporary
had a big
employee
brain question
and had only
today
been
that I need to
hired
call
to cover the
Sherlock,
holiday
and I
season.
had to ask myself why my wine
He had
glass
spent
smelled like
Thanksgiving with his
wine.
family
I'm still
and then
waiting for the
come straight
results.
to work, expecting to spend most of his time stocking shelves and carrying out maintenance.
Yes, Bardic Muse. This is the history of
Instead,
Black
Mr.
Friday in
Damore
general.
found himself on
Hugh
crowd
Jackman.
control duty.
There's a rumor that we're getting
In
a
an
bunch of
attempt to
X-Men and
prevent the
Doctor
doors
Strange
from
2 this
breaking,
summer.
Employees pushed back against them from the other side.
Huge Jackman.
They were still doing so until just before 5
I
a.m.
actually love the
when the
X-Men,
doors
the
shattered
first
under
X-Men,
the weight
Logan
of the
Wolverine,
crowd,
and
a
some
mob
scenes
of
from
shoppers
First Class.
surged inside. Mr. Damore
I
was thrown to
just,
the floor and trampled by dozens of people.
I
None of
just
whom
stick to the
stopped or
comics,
expressed
and I
concern
haven't for
over the man
so
they'd
many
stepped
fucking
on.
years that I can't
It
even
was left
really
to
say
his
that anymore. I
colleagues,
just don't
some of
really
whom had
engage with the
themselves
content
been knocked
anymore
to the
at
ground by
all.
the surge, to fight their way to him and try to help.
Including a new
While shoppers in
Wolverine.
the store fought over discount household goods.
Aw, did
an
Hugh
ambulance was
Jackman
called for
commit the
Mr. Damore.
crime of aging?
CPR was performed on scene
Damn it.
before he was transported to a nearby hospital.
I'm just sick to death of
Unfortunately,
of
his
superhero
injuries
stuff.
were too severe, and he
I
could not be
I
saved.
prefer it in comic form.
His
Like
death left his colleagues
I feel like
reeling with shock,
people do
and
my
some
favorite
attempts
characters
were
dirty
made
too
to
much,
clear
and
the
I
Walmart.
hate nerds who
The
think
crowd,
that way.
however, having
So
forced its way
I'm
inside,
damned if I
was
do, damned if
unwilling
I
to leave.
don't. You know what I mean?
When told what had happened and asked to go home, several
I'm
refused,
psyched for you
arguing
guys
that they had
that
been
that
waiting
you
in
guys
line
have
in the
enjoyed it
cold all
though.
night,
That's rad.
and
So
that they
like
weren't
for
going
those
to
of you that
leave
are
without
excited,
getting
I'm
what they'd
excited
come
for
for.
you.
In the aftermath of the incident,
Doxy watched The
shoppers
Boys. I
involved
fucking
were
hated it.
widely
I
condemned
hated
by
it.
the media and the
I
public,
thought the acting was
but
just
none faced any
disgusting. I thought it was abysmal.
The
I could
incident
do
had been
better.
so chaotic
thought it was
that
so
was
bad.
impossible to identify
I'm sorry,
any
I hated it.
individuals who could be considered responsible. Were those
You will say
pushing
that the
from
Batman.
back of
I
the crowd
haven't
to
seen it
blame?
yet.
Or
I
was it
want
the fault
to.
of those who
I
had first
love
surged
Robert
through the
Pattinson.
broken
I think that
doors? No arrests
doing
were
Twilight
made,
was one of
and
the
no
worst
individual
mistakes he's ever
faced
made.
any
I feel like he should have
consequences
stuck
for the loss
to
of
like
Jimitai
the
Damore's
like
life.
festival circuit movies.
Thankfully, deaths from trampling during Black Friday sales are relatively rare. Injuries are common, but most are minor. When reporting on Black Friday chaos,
I
many
just don't
sources also
do
include
any
deaths
physical
and
reading like at
injuries
all
which
anymore,
result
and
from
it's so
arguments
bad. I
in and
really
around
need
retail
to.
outlets
There's a
during the
bunch
big
of
day.
classics that I need to revisit
It's
now that I'm an
completely
actual
commonplace
person
for
and
Black
not
Friday
just
shoppers to
a
come
pair
to
of tits
blows
that needs
over
attention
limited stock,
constantly.
coveted parking spaces, or when someone is
Yeah,
seen
Rev, he's
stuck in line.
incredible. Also,
Every Black Friday sees
Your
scenes like
Highness,
these
thank
play out
you!
across the US.
also that's just sticking
Sometimes,
now. I'm
though,
sorry. I
shoppers
think I'm
take things
terribly
to
funny.
1993 Sparkler.
I'm sorry.
In 2011, one woman shopping
Love
in a
you.
Walmart in Los Angeles liberally pepper sprayed the crowd around a display of discount Xboxes, resulting in around 20 people, children included, suffering painful but non-life-threatening injuries.
You can tell
The
that that
shopper
dude
in
really,
question
really
then
loves the
calmly
craft,
paid for
Robert
her
Pattinson,
purchases
but really
and
fucking
left the
hates
store.
being famous.
After turning
You know
herself
what I mean?
in to the police a day later, she threatened to sue Walmart for failing to provide adequate security, a situation which forced her to resort to the
Get
pepper
enough
spray,
people to commit
she claimed.
manslaughter in there. Too many to
With
be guilty.
not enough
Yeah.
evidence to decide one way or another if it
Black
was
Friday is
self-defense,
just dangerous.
the
I'm
matter was
glad that
dropped
it's kind
with
of
no further legal consequences.
starting to
In
not be a thing
2016,
anymore.
in Vancouver, Canada,
Didn't he
Shoppers
hate
queued
Twilight? He
outside an
fucking
Adidas
hated
store for their
Twilight.
chance to purchase a
It was one of
limited
the biggest
edition
mistakes
shoe
he's ever
that
made.
was due to
He
be
gets to
released
be
as
like
part of
rich
a Black
now
Friday promotion.
and bang
Before
anybody
the
he
doors
ever
could be
wants
opened,
to.
however, the crowd
But
became
also,
violent. As
he did
fighting broke out,
Twilight.
one man removed his shirt and began using his
Met the love
belt
of his
as a
life, who
whip
then cheated
to
on
keep
him.
other shoppers at bay. He was promptly arrested,
Scrads!
and the sale was cancelled outright.
Pond
In
underscore water sparkler.
2014,
Arts grade
the
used to the
madness that
T1 sub
surrounds
to
Black
pond
Friday
underscore
was
water.
even seen overseas in the UK. In
That's
Manchester,
so
police
nice
were
of
called out
you.
to 7 different Tesco supermarkets over
Callista
the course of the
underscore
day
Chan
to
Sparkler,
intervene
Arts
in
grade
fights
You gotta
used to
get
the
out of
T1
here.
sub
Oh,
to
you're getting
Callista
nauseous.
to
underscore
No,
respond
Chan.
I
to
hope you
members
feel
of the
better
public
soon.
threatening staff.
Thank you again
At
for
one
your
store, a
service
woman
to
was injured
your
by a
community. I
falling
think that you're
television,
amazing.
and
Have a
footage
good
of
night.
consumers fighting
Love
over
you
Arts
right
grade
back.
television
It
sets
was so
made
good to
headlines
see you.
across the country. It's not just the UK that has
Art Scratch
adopted
just
Black
starts a
Friday
hype
as
train
an
and
annual
bounces
event.
out.
Set it
Indeed,
up
the idea
sparkler.
has
Arts
spread
grade used to the
around the
T1
world.
sub to set it up.
Romania holds Black
Yeah,
Friday
he is
sales
obviously
a week
uncomfortable with
before
the fame
US.
aspect, which is totally
In
understandable.
Germany,
Yeah,
many
big
retailers
agree.
participate in an entire
Also,
week of
the
the
discount
Lighthouse
offers
was
for families.
fucking
Black
incredible.
Friday
Willem
Black
Dafoe
shopping.
is a living
Black
angel.
Friday is a growing
Like, that dude
presence
is
in
just a
Australia,
legend. Did you
Mexico,
know?
Canada, Switzerland,
True
and a
fact.
steadily
He
increasing number of
he did a
European
movie
countries.
where he had a nude scene,
Interestingly,
and his
retailers in some
wiener is so
countries participate
comedically
in Black
large that
Friday
they had to
under
get a
a
body
different
double
name,
for him so that he would
often
have a
because the
smaller
term
wiener.
Black Friday is already in common usage.
Legend.
Usually as the colloquial name
Legend.
for a disaster or other tragedy. In France, for example, these sales are usually known as XXL Day, rather than Black Friday.
His poor wife.
As Black Friday is a term used to refer to terrorist attacks.
He is
which took
married,
place in
right?
the country in 2015.
That movie is great and
Whatever
awful. I
its
haven't
called
seen it.
and
I
wherever
know
it
that Willem
takes
Dafoe
place,
just
Black
takes
Friday
roles.
seems to
He
almost
just
always
takes
create a
roles.
certain
He
amount
does
of
the Nick
chaos
Cage
and
thing.
conflict.
And
Most
I'm
countries
here
where
for
the
it because
event
I
has
want to
been
see him
promoted
cast
have
as
seen at least
everything.
some
I
scenes
love him.
similar to
There
those
was a
which take place in the
firefight.
US
I
each year.
just want him in
A violent
everything.
struggle over electronic
I
goods
love him.
is, it seems, so essential a part
That's
of the
pretty
day
funny. I actually
that it
agree.
transcends borders. Perhaps because of this tendency towards chaos, some retailers have taken steps to move away from Black Friday.
He's acting royalty by this
Asda
point,
in
totally.
the UK, for example, has publicly declared
I didn't know that
it
he was
will
from
prefer
Wisconsin. You can
smaller
tell when he
sales
talks,
spread out
hey?
throughout the
He
year
sounds like
to
he's from
one big
Wisconsin.
weekend of deals, with an executive noting that they found the footage of Black Friday brawls uncomfortable. Elsewhere, retailers have been moving online, with a greater focus on Cyber Monday, the Monday after Thanksgiving, and a day when retailers have started to offer
Nah,
massive
let 'em
discounts for
see.
online shoppers. When shopping online, at least, there is little chance that anyone will be injured
I
by
haven't
falling
seen
stock,
At Eternity's
pepper
Gate.
sprayed by fellow shoppers, drawn into a fistfight over a discount games console, or trampled to death by a crowd.
Oh, it wasn't a hype train. I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry. I hope that that didn't come off as greedy. Jeez Louise. Meds in bed for you. You know what? It's time for us to call it anyway. It's midnight on the dot. And we're gonna try getting back into our good schedule. Like, I promise you, I'm trying so hard. I know, everybody. I'm the worst. I would legit love a Zero Doxy reaction to the Batman. Funny you should say that. I'm thinking about doing movie nights for patrons, because so far all of my patrons are also subs of mine. And I believe that subs of yours are automatically like engaged in watch parties if available. Like they have automatic admission for it. It's either that or Prime members. I don't know, but it's some weird thing. Anyway, I'm thinking about doing a Patreon movie night. So that might become a reality for you. Anyway, a couple of shill things. First of all, thank you so much, everybody, for just being so supportive today and for being understanding when I had a panic attack last week, and then just like kept having it on Friday. You guys truly, like, thank you so much for being so patient and kind. I really appreciate it. Again, don't forget to go and completely binge Josiah's content, because YouTube decided that he made it and then one artist fucking took it away from him. If I could get you guys. That's so nice. Kels, thank you.
Captivating Chazeros cheered.
Josiah did it. Or not Josiah, I'm sorry. Kool-Aid, it did it. It did it. Okay. You guys are sincerely amazing. Thank you so much. Please, if you don't mind, I would love if you would join the Discord. It will be 10 minutes before you can say anything. So do it now so that in 10 minutes you can come and say hi. And then also follow me on Twitter. It's twitter.com/ZER0DOXY. DOXY, sorry. And then I also have a Patreon. No pressure because you don't get any real rewards from it yet. But if you want to take a look at it, I would be pleased. There's a teeny tiny joke in there even, so it might be fun for you. Other than that, just if you guys could hang tight, and I would love to hear a secret of yours, but totally lie. Just lie about your deepest, darkest secret in chat so that you're nice and active and we have a big fat fucking raid to send to somebody, okay? Please and thanks. Love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully at 8 p.m. sharp.